Roll call, please.
Commissioner Markle?
Here.
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Barilla?
Here.
And we're going to be led in our invocation by Otero County Treasurer Laura Whiteside. So if you'll all stand, please.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this beautiful weather and this rain that you blessed us with. Thank you for allowing us to live in this county where we have beautiful weather almost every day. I pray, Lord, I just want to thank you, Lord, for being able to pray in public, Lord, and be able to go into a government place and give you praise and glory and ask for your protection. As this meeting continues, I pray for protection and blessing and guidance for the leaders that you have put in place, and may your will be done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You'll follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Okay, we've got some proclamations, but before we do that, we're going to move into the public hearing because it has to start at 9:05. So we are going to discuss and hear public comment and consider approval of ordinance number 23-03, Keep Otero County Beautiful Advisory Board. RB?
Good morning, Commissioners. Discussed this a little bit before, but this is simply a first step in many steps that we're going to take to reach the goal of beautification of the county and keeping it beautiful and mitigating trash and litter issues that are so prevalent across the county. And this is a way for members of the community to be involved and to come up with solutions, come up with ideas, bring information to you, the commission, and they'll be able to affiliate with the Keep America Beautiful program, and they can also seek out other grants and opportunities to address these issues. I think it's important that the citizens are involved, and it's going to take all of us. And sometimes, because of the way red tape and bureaucracy exist, the simplest, most straightforward is us as citizens rolling up our sleeves and taking care of these issues that we see. So, and the ordinance itself just outlines the composition of the board, how members are selected, and how long they serve, and responsibilities and roles, and it makes our solid waste manager an advisor to the committee, and we can have other advisors as well. I'm sure I'll be involved some. For the first period, it'll be staggered. 3 members will serve a full year term, and 2 members will serve a 1 year, and that's in line with our resolution that established the operating policies for creating committees and boards. But, if you have any questions, just let me know, or if anyone from the public would like to ask questions or discuss it.
I have one. How do you have to apply to get onto this board?
We will run an ad in the newspaper and on social media, and they submit letters of intent, and then you select from that, just like you do the Alamogordo Library Board and those other committees.
Oh.
And you could just select people, but to kind of open it up and give everyone in the community an opportunity to be considered, that's the process.
So when I was reading this, and it seems like, are we duplicating efforts, or what is this going to do with our code enforcement? I'm assuming that they're going to come to the meeting and they're going to say, we found a dump site, and then we turn it over to code enforcement. Is this one more step we're adding, or how do you envision this committee?
I don't see them as duplicating. I see them as another tool in the toolkit. Code enforcement has its lane and its options for dealing with issues. More of what I see this group is organizing community cleanups. The city has both Alamogordo and Tularosa have decently active keep this area beautiful programs. I see them connecting with them and finding ways to emulate what they're doing. I haven't got to look into this yet, but Alamogordo posted on this week that their Keep Alamogordo Beautiful program is offering to go clean up weeds and grass and trash at residences. I'm not sure exactly how that is skirting the anti-donation clause. It may just be because there are volunteers doing it that are not affiliated with the government. But I want to find out how they're doing it, and if I think it is a legal avenue, then I would want this advisory board to help set that up as just another way to address this issue. I mean, it's not a one size all or one solution problem. It's a multi-pronged approach. Other avenues I see them pursuing is education, getting into the schools, getting into social media efforts. I see them as a way to do things code enforcement doesn't either have the resources to do, or it's a bit outside of their lane.
Okay.
Would there be anything financially that the county would need to do? I mean, help with trash bags, those pinchers to pick the stuff up? Would we do that type of thing?
That is, they are going to be able to do budgetary requests. And there's also, by affiliating with the Keep America Beautiful program and potentially the state one, they can get those resources provided through other funding sources as well.
Well, I'm all for cleaning this place up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, do we need to vote on it? Okay. All right. I make a motion to consider the approval of ordinance number 23-03, Keep Otero County Beautiful Advisory Board.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes. Thank you, RB. Okay, I'm gonna read, we've got 3 proclamations, so y'all bear with me. We've got 3 today, which is unusual, but they're all important. So the first one is the World Diabetes Day. Whereas diabetes is a chronic, life-threatening condition that affects millions of people worldwide, and its prevalence continues to rise, and whereas diabetes is a leading cause of various health complications, including heart disease, kidney failure, blindness, and lower limb amputations, and whereas diabetes imposes a significant economic burden on individuals, families, healthcare systems, and communities, and whereas World Diabetes Day is celebrated globally on November 14th each year to raise awareness about diabetes, its prevention, management, and the importance of access to health care and education. And whereas the theme for the World Diabetes Day 2023 is Join the Fight for a Diabetes-Free Future, emphasizing the need for collective action to combat diabetes and its associated challenges. And whereas Otero County, New Mexico recognizes the importance of joining this global effort to address diabetes and promote better health for its residents. Now therefore, Otero County Commissioners, on behalf of the people of Otero County, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim November 14th, 2023 as World Diabetes Day in Otero County, New Mexico, and encourages all residents, community organizations, healthcare providers, and businesses to raise awareness about diabetes, its risk factors and complications, promote healthy lifestyles, and the prevention of diabetes through diet, exercise, and regular medical checkups, support individuals living with diabetes by providing access to education, resources, and healthcare services, advocate for policies and initiatives that improve diabetes care and management, show solidarity with the global community in the highest fight against diabetes. And the next one is a proclamation in support of the New Mexico Nurse Practitioner Council celebrating Nurse Practitioner Week. Whereas nurse practitioners play a critical role in the healthcare system of Otero County and across New Mexico, providing high-quality, patient-centered care in a variety of settings, including primary care practices, hospitals, clinics, and long-term care facilities across the lifespan. And whereas nurse practitioners are highly trained, licensed professionals who have completed rigorous education and clinical training, including a master's or doctoral degree in nursing and national certification in their area of specialization. And whereas New Mexico has been a leader in recognizing the importance of nurse practitioners and granted them full scope authority to practice to the full extent of their education and training without the need for physician oversight or collaborative practice agreements, which has improved access to care and increased healthcare efficiency. And whereas there are more than 290,000 licensed nurse practitioners in the United States, with over 3,000 practicing in the state of New Mexico alone, making up nearly 1/3 of all advanced practice registered nurses in the state. And whereas nurse practitioners are providing care to an increasingly diverse patient population, with nearly 20% of all nurse practitioners providing care in rural and underserved areas, and over 20% providing care to Medicaid and Medicare beneficiaries. And whereas nurse practitioners are vital to addressing the growing demand for primary care services, with over 1 billion visits to nurse practitioners each year, and an estimated 1 in 5 Americans receiving care from a nurse practitioner annually. And whereas nurse practitioners are helping to improve health outcomes and reduce healthcare costs, with studies showing that nurse practitioners provide care that is comparable in care and outcomes to physician-led care, while also reducing emergency department visits and hospitalization readmissions. And whereas nurse practitioners are committed to promoting health and preventing illness and work tirelessly to educate patients and their families about healthy lifestyle choices and disease prevention strategies. And whereas the New Mexico Nurse Practitioner Council is a professional organization that represents nurse practitioners across the state and advocates for policies and initiatives that support the advancement and recognition of nurse practitioners in New Mexico. Now therefore, we, the Otero County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 12th through the 18th, 2023 as National Nurse Practitioners Week, proclaimed during Board of County Commissioners regular meeting on this November 9th, 2023. And I don't know if anybody's here to accept these, but we can do them afterwards.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. And this is the last one. This is supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans. Whereas the residents of Otero County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of those who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Otero County seeks to honor individuals who have made countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil groups, and by functioning as county veterans service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and whereas an estimated 20% increase of all service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourage all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas the Otero County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Therefore, be it resolved, with designation as a Green Light for Veterans Day, Veterans County, Otero County hereby declares Veterans Day, November 11th, 2023, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Therefore, be it further resolved that in observance with Operation Greenlight, Otero County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying green lights in windows of their places of business or residence from November 6th through November 12th, 2023. That's a lot of reading.
Need a drink of water?
Yeah, no kidding. Drink of something. Okay. So now I need to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Did you
Aye.
need to pull something?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we will move on to our sheriff's office report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
David Black, Otero County Sheriff. For October, Sheriff's Office responded to 2,525 calls for service, had 231 investigative reports, investigated 65 traffic crashes, made 58 arrests, had 5 summonses and 2 warrants issued. We issued 172 traffic citations. And another item that I wanted to add, just so you guys kind of know, our ACO, our CSOs, community service officers, they do our animal control, plus they do our paper service for the courts and stuff. So last month they served 311 subpoenas for our courts. So not only do they take care of the animals, but they do a lot of running around serving paper. In narcotics, we had 1 search warrant, we had 5 arrests, 12 agency assists, 16 case reports, 1 checkpoint case, 1 vehicle seized, 1 firearm seized, 2 fugitive apprehensions. We did have 1 case, jail possession case. We received 27.15 grams of meth, 66 fentanyl pills, total of about $3,700 worth of illegal narcotics. In our special events, we attended a National Night Out at Holloman Air Force Base, and we attended one at Sunland Park. We attended a meeting with Walmart, in which we received a significant check from Walmart for our Shop with the Cop program. Next month, I'll kind of have a little more of a presentation on Shop with the Cop. We started that last year, and it was very successful, but it's probably going to be about 4 times as large this year. So we're going to have a lot of folks involved in that. We assisted Tularosa with their homecoming parade, attended a safety fair at the Home Depot. We had a DARE presentation in Ruidoso. We had Red Ribbon Week at the elementary school in Chaparral. And we attended the trunk or treat at the Elks Lodge. Training for the SO, again, right now we're kind of at the end of our 2-year training cycle. We're doing a lot of biennium training, getting all that stuff, make sure everybody's caught up on their training. And we just completed all our day quals and our biennium 4 hours of firearms qualifications. So we got a little bit more of night quals to do on firearms, and then we'll be completely caught up on all our training. And then in January we start the cycle again, so we get to do it all over again. In our Manning, Deputy Graves is currently at the academy. On the 21st, we'll go up to his graduation. He was selected as class leader up there, and he is doing a phenomenal job. We're looking forward to getting him back here and getting him on the street. Deputy Angiano, we got him hired. He's currently doing some training in the courthouse. And then on the 20th of this month, he will start his pre-academy along with 4 others. So we'll have 5 do pre-academy training, and then in February we'll send 5 to the academy. So as it stands right now, I do have 5 openings. We got those 5 going to the next academy, and we'll be holding a physical assessment here probably first part of the year. We got to try to get these other 5 positions filled up. We did do a physical assessment on the 7th of October. We had 4 candidates eligible to start the background phase. Of the 4 candidates, we are now down to 1. Some disqualifications on the background and stuff. We've got one that will make a job offer here before too long. On our vehicles, we got the 3 new vehicles that just went into rotation, and we got 3 more that hopefully within the next week we'll have them on patrol and in rotation, and looking forward to getting those. That is all I have. If you have any questions of me.
You've been busy.
We've been extremely
I
busy.
experienced my first lockdown this week in the church.
Yes.
It was a hostage situation. That was a
Yeah.
new experience.
Yeah. We, this past week's been very challenging for law enforcement, not just us, but PD, state, VA's office. I mean, it's been crazy this week.
Mhm.
So that's why I was almost a little late this morning. We were doing a round table on stuff that happened yesterday. So yesterday was not a good day in Otero County. So.
David, I've had a few people that were talking to me about the Tularosa Police Department. Are we still having to assist them quite a bit?
Yes.
Are they, what's happening with that? They tell me the police chief's not even a certified officer.
Yeah, I'd just say there's some issues up there that need to be addressed. I'm hoping that maybe with this election, we will have some different people in charge up there, and hopefully we'll get some stuff moving. And we have offered to help with training, just like this pre-academy training. I'll send it to them and tell them any of your officers are welcome to attend any of this anytime. We will help train your guys and get them ready for the academy. We'll see what happens. It's difficult to, when you hire somebody and they're not certified, you get them on the street and stuff. I won't do that. I will not put a guy that's not certified on the street. It takes me from the day I hire them to the day they get on the street solo patrol, it's a year. So right now we continue to respond to calls, assisting them. Sometimes we wind up doing the work for them. So, but like I said, we've reached out to them so many times and offered our services, our help. I mean, send them over here, we'll train them. That's not a problem.
So with the 5 you got going to the academy, that'll be your 5 that would fill you up?
Nope, I got five in
5
addition.
more on.
Yes.
It wasn't very long ago, you were just like 1 down.
Yep, yeah, and was it last week or last month? We got the other 5 positions from the grant. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now.
Okay,
Without that, yeah, I'd be pretty much full.
okay.
So, but these other 5 here, and I do have a couple of laterals that we've talked to. Like we got one guy works in Roosevelt County, lives in El Paso, drives back and forth all the time. He's ready to come home, so we'll be talking with him in the next few days. So we got some stuff in the works. I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll be fully staffed again.
Cool.
That's my goal.
No, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Is John Barney here? Oh, there you are. I see you come in.
Good morning, John Barney, 911 Director for the county.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Again, another busy month. Total call volume, we did about 12,000 calls within the center and outbound, about 9,200 911 lines, or correction on that, 2,100 911 lines, 6,000 admin lines, about 1,000 law enforcement lines, and then our outbound calls were about 2,800 to officers and other services within the county. EMD, we're going to be going to the new EMD, Emergency Medical Dispatch Program, probably next week. Everyone has been certified. They're just finalizing their tests and everything like that. So all EMS calls are going to be handled differently now. We're going to have a structured-based medical program where we can actually give pre-arrival instructions, including aspirin, nitro, better CPR instructions, and different things like that. So all of our medical calls are going to be very structured now when we handle that. We have teamed up with Toys for Tots for the holiday season. So we have a couple boxes. We have at the Sheriff's Office, Alamogordo Police Department, here at our building at the front, and the county EOC. There's boxes there for the residents to drop off, and they'll be picking them up on the 23rd. So we're stopping at the 20th so we can gather everything ready to go of December. We hired our assistant director that will be starting here in 2 weeks. So he'll be assisting on the administration side for the 911 center. And we also hired our NCIC assistant. We've traveled around the lower part of New Mexico to other 911 centers to see how they're handling the criminal justice side of the warrants, filing system, things that we've been missing, and how we can improve our CJIS compliance. So we're compliant with the state along with the FBI. So there'll be a lot of changes there shortly. And as on the agenda, we're looking to hire another NCIC assistant because we're receiving about almost 70 warrants a week that they have to enter. And that is not only just warrants, that's TROs, along with taking everything out of the system on top of all the recorded requests that we do now for IPRAs. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
I know I've asked you about this before, but some people probably haven't heard it, but there is a thing, when people are here vacationing, they can report their number to 911, correct? And if there's a fire or a flood or anything in the mountains, they will be on the emergency alert system. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Am I
we
saying
just
that correctly?
migrated to a program called Rave Alert. We used to be Command Central Notify. They've been bought out by Rave. So Rave now, if you go to the website, you can go and sign up for that where you can receive notifications. We're in the process of getting certified with FEMA for iPause, where it'll be automatic alerts that will come out for major events and different things like that. So they can go in and add their information in there, receive stuff, and when they're done, they can log back in there and pretty much delete themselves out of there for quick notifications.
Do you have just a little brief summary of that so I can deliver it to some of the people?
Yes,
the
I can
people
email
up
it
on
to
the
you
mountain?
guys. Yeah, it's
Okay,
called.
that'd be
It's
perfect.
pretty much called Rave Alert with Smart 911 is the program. They've been bought out and migrated into all Motorola products.
Okay,
So we
perfect.
can have that, and we've been posting on Facebook and it's on our website too. But I can
Okay.
send you guys that
Yeah,
information.
if you'll email that to me, I'd appreciate
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
we have working with I'm Responding to integrate for the fire department too now, and we also have Rapid SOS where we're actually linking up with other agencies, including Texas and Texas DPS for active assailant notifications. So that is a big step in the 911 world that we're actually going to start receiving other notifications from other 911 centers so we can alert people within our county.
Awesome. Okay, all right. Good.
Okay.
Nope, I do see an improvement. Are you getting less complaints?
Yeah, I haven't gotten many more. We're probably going to start receiving more again here soon because we are putting trainees on fire. They're coming out of their first phase to move to the fire phase, so we might see some issues there, but we kind of have a way to work around it. And again, we are still looking at improving the paging system, working with Matt Clark on that, and hopefully we'll have some answers here soon. We're just got to work with Sergeant Emery on CAD and how the whole interface is going to work because technology is a huge thing in the 911 center now, so it just doesn't happen like that all the time.
I have one question. There was, at one time, there was a little issue with notification of the volunteer EMTs and stuff like that. If we get all that kind of handled?
Yeah.
I see a head shaking in the background behind you. That's why I'm just kind of wondering.
Most of it has been fixed. The biggest thing was delayed of dispatch and of calls. We have some incidences where we are not using the right repeaters. Unfortunately, the county has a lot of repeaters throughout the county, especially in the mountains and within the canyons. It's a lot for the dispatchers to learn and know to keep switching, especially how busy they are on that channel. We only have one dispatcher that handles all fire and EMS through the city of Alamogordo and also the county, including AMR. So it's just a lot. But what I've seen, we have received less complaints, and to me, we're fixing the issues. So
How many openings do you still have?
I have 2.
2.
Yep. So we're filling them. About to hire a female from Alaska that has prior experience with Fairbanks. So
Good.
we'll be bringing her on, so that's one person that we can probably push through a little bit quicker with that experience.
I got to speak with one of the newbies, and he did a really good job. Yep, so
Awesome.
glad to have him on board.
Mhm.
It's a definitely improvement from state police dispatch. So for me, when I get dispatched by state police and they can't answer questions, I've been calling you. And I'm not getting 100%, but more than other dispatchers, so you're getting there. I
Yep.
see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's been an
Just-
improvement. It's hard, but we're getting there. So
Yep. Just tell them, use all their words. Everything they know, they have to share.
Mhm.
And that'll just make the team stronger with whatever we're driving into.
absolutely, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. And Matt's not here today, but if anybody has questions for Jacob,
Yes.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Jacob Bach, Code Enforcement Supervisor.
Jacob, I was just asking you to come because I was, last week I had a couple of calls on Bowles Acres, so I talked to Matt about that. He was going to get with you to go, again, with the First Street. The issue there's there's 4 vehicles that are, maybe one of them runs. They are in the easement. They seem to be just piling trash more and more on that lot beside them. I'm just wondering where that is. Matt informed me that whoever's living there are squatters, the owner's dead. Something's got to happen here somewhere.
Yeah, so we're looking, we've made contact with some of the people that were there. Of course, they say that they don't live there, they just come over and work on the cars. We notified them that they need to start cleaning it up. We can't really prove who lives there, who doesn't, so we're just telling whoever we can. The property owner, it's kind of jumbled up. The guy that lived there before, he passed away. I'm not showing any record that it was ever sold or anything like that, so we really don't know where to send the letters. The people that are there, they're telling us they don't live there, so we're kind of in limbo trying to figure out who do we hold responsible for this. Me and RB have had some conversations that we might be able to get those tenants to court if we need to, so that's an option that we're looking at. But
If, in a legal case, if the property owner is dead and there's no contact with anybody, and these people are coming there, isn't that a trespassing deal? Or if there's squatters in there, how?
that's above me. I don't know that legal part of it. I don't know if RB can touch on that.
Yes, that'd be moving to law enforcement realm, and we'd have to look at how we could enforce that. I'll get with the sheriff on that. Yeah, I hadn't heard the part about it being squatters, but I'm not surprised. I think there's that situation popping up in quite a few of these places.
Right. The other one that I was wanting to talk to you about was a new one on 86 2nd Street. The neighbor was complaining that that property went for auction. The roof is blowing off of it. Nobody's taking care of it. The owner supposedly is a company or a person out of Arizona.
Yes, sir.
Have they been notified for?
Letters have been sent out on that. We haven't heard anything back. Of course, it's going to take a little bit to get the letter to Arizona, but all the stuff has been sent out on that, so we're working on trying to get a hold of somebody.
So are we closer on our deal where them through the courts and trying to speed this up, or are we still in?
We had some roadblocks come up on the paperwork for the citations. I'm going to work on getting through those, but in the meantime, I'm just going to get them trained up on how to do a criminal summons and give them templates, and we're just going to, this is taking too long, so we're going to pivot to that strategy and get them up and running with just issuing criminal summons rather than a citation, because apparently a citation requires all sorts of additional approval and things because it's a special piece of paper.
Okay. That's all I have, Jacob. Thank you for,
Quail Trail, do we have an update on that?
No, that's another one that me and RB talked about. We're gonna try to schedule a time with deputies so we could go over there and try to make contact with the tenants of that property, because we haven't been able to get in touch with the actual property owner and see if we can't move forward with the tenants and trying to get that place cleaned up.
And on Florida, the tree on the house?
We did get the return receipt from the certified letter that it was signed, so they've officially been notified. We haven't seen much movement done over there, but we're still trying to get them to comply with us.
forgot about that one. I'm glad you asked.
Somebody's doing some cleanup over there. They tore down an old corral and some old fences and stuff, but not on that property.
Yeah, I think that's just south of it, right?
Yeah, I still drive by that every
Yep.
day.
I can't tell on the house with the tree on it, are they living in that house or are they living in the camp trailer?
As far as we know, there's somebody living in both of them.
Mhm.
There's an older gentleman living in the house with the tree, and then somebody else in the trailer.
And it doesn't look like the house is not livable per se because of the tree.
Right.
Is
Probably
there?
doesn't help.
Well, no, I'm
Got
sure.
a tree on the roof.
So in that circumstance, I mean, just removal of the tree will fix the problem.
Right.
And so what do you do when somebody doesn't have the money to do that?
It's tough because it brings up the anti-donation clause, and what state agency was that contacted us about the tree and outside of Cloudcroft?
That was the governor's office. The governor's office had a liaison that contacted me about us removing a tree from an elderly gentleman's property, whether we had a fire department or someone who could do it.
It was through the housing agency or something,
That might
affordable
have been
housing.
another one.
Okay.
We've had
There was
several.
some state agency that contacted us earlier this year where, in one of the bad windstorms, a tree had fallen on an elderly person's home, and they were on a fixed income type situation, and they were okay with it, with government action removing it. So I was surprised, but if they're okay with it, sure, I'm good with it too. So we could explore reaching out to them and seeing if they would facilitate that. I'll just have to check back in notes and emails and see who that was exactly.
Anything else?
That's it.
I think that's it. That's all I can think of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Porter, Otero County Road Department.
Good morning.
Good morning. So for the month of October, we did finish up our chip seal projects for 2023, which the finish up was around the Tularosa area, west of Tule and that area. We did clean some cattle guards over on Seep Canyon. We ended up hauling a bunch of pit run to Cornucopia, Prestridge, Hay Canyon, Potato Canyon, FO17, FO26, and 29. We also have the borrow pit established down on FO17 so we can repair the flood damage from a year and a half ago. As of right now, we've got about 90% of FO17 finished, and then we'll be moving over to FO24 to finish it up. The signs for Bent are in. Unfortunately, the solar chargers are on back order.
Just go to Harbor Freight.
No. Appler Road is finished. We finished the downstream chips, riprap on that the other day. We did some erosion repairs over on Chapel Road up in Three Rivers from the flooding we've had this year. And we have all of our trucks ready for snowplow season. We have our 5 all set up with salt boxes and snowplows. Delivered and picked up voting machines.
And this is probably a question for RB, but any status on the 506 reimbursement fix, the crossings?
They've not responded to, Fort Bliss has not responded to my inquiries about the the crossings. So I'll send them email again, and I'll email and call to see where that's at. It's either the last month or the month before that we submitted the additional evidence that was requested for the payment, and so they are processing that. I don't know how long that'll take, but they received it and are going forward with the process. I am not optimistic about how much money we'll get based on the data we were able to show. So the amount that we were able to quantify and provide shows repair, or not simply repair, but just more status quo maintenance expenses. And what we really want from the claim is like a full-on repair. And so I don't remember what the numbers were, but just for example, say we're probably expending $300,000 to just keep it drivable with a four-wheel drive. To get it where it needs to be is, I don't know, $5 million.
Yeah, with the tank crossings, it was probably more than that.
Yeah, we don't have to pay for those,
Yes.
but
Yeah, to get it to sustainable condition, we're looking probably at about $4.5 million. I think that was the figure we came up with.
so I think kind of where we go is we see what they come back with as far as substantiating the claim and the amount they suggest, and then we take that to the congressional delegation and some higher level brass, and make the case that unless they come back with an amount we like, but I don't think they will, and if that's the case, we will make the case that that is not adequate.
So you were down there all this week, last week.
The last 3 weeks, yes, correct.
How is that road? What kind of shape is it
Right.
in?
Surprisingly, they had maneuvers out there last week with a full contingent, and there were no heavy travel up and down on the 506. There was some crossing, but I think we've got our point across that they need to stay off of the road as far as travel, so there are no blowouts on it as of right now.
We'll have to stay on top of it because
Yeah.
it's in the current leadership's
Mhm.
headspace, but you got turnover every
Yep,
2 to 3
every
years,
2
and you
years.
got to re-educate or re-inform.
Can we put up a big old sign that says no freaking tanks on this road with flashing lights?
Okay,
Yeah,
Solar panels, solar panels are not available.
They're on back order.
Back ordered.
Yes.
And I was getting, have you heard, I know it's state, but have you heard anything about the guardrails up by the tunnel?
No.
That's been ongoing forever.
I actually asked Aaron about that
Mhm.
because of the last guardrail, and he said that guardrail is something special and that material is on back order.
Yeah, that's the last I heard. Okay, all right.
I got a question.
Mhm.
First, did you get that culvert in front of Bent? I didn't hear you mention that. That pink
We haven't
house?
got to that one yet.
Okay, okay. And then Riata Road.
Mhm.
I know you're ready for this one. I've not been able to make contact with my railroad guy. We're kind of missing each other. So I don't know the results of what he found out for me. But, and I haven't called Wilson back because I'm waiting on the railroad to tell me which direction we're going. The Poindexter, if you go east on Poindexter to Railroad, there's actually 2 roads right there.
Mhm.
The railroad easement, and then there's the road just west of that.
That runs on private property through the pecan orchard.
It goes all along, and it hits Riata all the way to where the railroad crossing is.
Once you hit the railroad cross, you have to be on the railroad easement to use that.
And we've got to do something for the school buses. I know that everybody known about this for 2 years.
They've had a heads up, Amy, for 2 years. It's just like when we did the second bridge down there on the southern end. You know, everybody had a lot to head up on this, and I understand it's an inconvenience for everybody, and it's just like on Alamo Street. It's an inconvenience, but we have to get these roads fixed.
What did we do for the school buses when we had that road closed?
They went out and around.
They did?
Yep.
On that, I have a question. I've been told it's 3 kids on the south side. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's the school board, the school district, they have a budget, and I don't. It seems like it would be a pretty simple solution to either contract a van or an additional small bus and pick those 3 kids up separately in order to just do that for 6 months to alleviate the burden, the time burden of going around.
If it's only 3, it seems like the parents could just move the bus stop to the bridge area. They do have a crossing that's on the east side of the construction that the pecan farmers are sharing. The kids, is it legal? Move the bus crossing for just a few months and let them pick up right there?
I think there are some simple options such as that, or a second vehicle that should be explored that are easier done than some of these other, and less costly than these other things they're looking at. And as Mr. Porter said, there's been 2 years' notice. It wasn't a surprise. Proper planning would have avoided this.
And then our chief of Jackrabbit Flats.
And again, Mr.
Again, I have not spoke with him. This is just me knowing.
I have
Okay,
repeatedly, and he's had a heads up on this for a couple years to get everything in a row. And he's been granted, he's only been chief for about a year now, but he's had the time to get his ducks in a row on it. I hate sounding that way, but we've done our due diligence on letting John Q. Public know this was coming, along with all the other entities. I do have here, and I'd like to give all 3 of you a copy of this. This was just a short little cost analysis of what it cost
That is not short.
for the short-term traffic control that we did on the second bridge when it was only part-time. And what we are looking at now is 24 hours a day until this is done.
Is this the security on the railroad
Yes.
easement?
Yes.
I know that the other one cost us, what, about 200 and something thousand?
And that was just during working hours. To do this on the easement that you're talking about, you're 24/7 because they have to have it for John Q. Public.
So they're saying that they need security to maintain that road,
Yes.
but yet they have homeless camps that live under the railroad that don't need security?
And if they catch them, they run them off.
I haven't
But-
seen that yet.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I've even spoke with a guy out of California about a homeless camp in Tularosa,
Mhm.
and he says there's nothing they can do about it.
Because they'll be gone before the railroad, and I use this phrase, the railroad cops will show up, they're gone. And then they'll be right back the next day. Yeah. We had one repeatedly when I was the chief of Jackrabbit that had a camp underneath Highway 54. And we were constantly getting paged out for fires under the bridge, and we'd get there and he'd be gone.
So this is like $32,567 a month?
Mhm. And that's the monthly charge. That's not getting everything set up. To get this set up, you're looking at least 16 weeks between the time we say we want to do this and the time we can do this. That is not the cost of building the bypass or anything else.
Is anybody using it right now? Do that you know of?
That road,
Just.
the railroad and a few of the off-roaders that go out through that way. And again, if they get caught, I'm sure the sheriff will agree with me, they get calls on it to get them off of there.
Because any kind of traffic on that easement road is just gonna turn to a dust bowl
Mhm.
powder. you'd have to come in and base it all the way or
And you've got
something.
3 arroyos that run right through that area, and 2 of them are major arroyos, they're not small arroyos.
I mean, for me, it's not that bad going around. It makes my ETA to like BIA maybe 10 minutes longer.
Mhm.
And so it's not as bad, but
No, but when we did the second one, it was horrible for you.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean.
They're all horrible.
Yeah, so I mean,
So I just wonder about Jackrabbit, you know, what,
that is 1 member out of the department.
so the rest can respond, they're all on the
Mhm.
other side and,
Yep.
okay.
So, Tom, just kind of a curious question. They use that Riata Road for emergency bypass when something's wrong with 54. What would,
Multiple times.
yeah, what,
And again, it's just like when we did the first bridge and the second bridge. When this happens, they're shut down. They have to go up through Muscalero and Ruidoso.
you come back around?
Or Cloudcroft, sorry.
Or gravel pit, I mean, go up that way and. we've
Well,
done that
depending on
before,
where
too.
the closure is.
Okay.
I forgot that Mr. Danley wanted me to give a shout out to the sheriff's office for their assist in the situation yesterday. They said thank you very, very much for that construction on Alamo Street. So thank you for everything. That's all I got.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, Commissioners. Trent Parker, Project Manager.
Good morning again.
Good morning. We have had a busy month. Chen's Phase 3, we were kind of held up getting our concurrent signatures from DFA due to some of the subcontractors were having to update their SAMs. And they got those done in a timely manner, but then it was on the approval process, and so that took a little time. We did get all of the SAMs up to date, and I'm working with a representative of the COG to push forward and getting our final concurrent signatures so that we can proceed on with getting this project started. The PSAP Dispatch Center, Phase 2 administration area is in progress. We're well into it. This past month, we've completed the framing, the insulation, and the sheetrock. They're now taping and finishing the building. And in the upcoming month, we plan to get the ceilings in so that all the above ceiling MEP can be installed, and followed by flooring. With that being said, our current schedule reflects the center being finished March of '24. We're actually right now setting to where we will be finished by the first of the year
Wow.
and have
Awesome.
the project complete. So the contractor's doing an excellent job of staying ahead of schedule.
Is that White Sands again, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's White Sands Construction. It did help that we were able to purchase and store all the material for Phase 2 when they were purchasing Phase 1, so everything was on hand, so we didn't experience any delays with any type of materials or anything, so it's really bumped that project on. Alamo Street Phase 2, the contractor this past month completed all their culvert installations and utility relocations. They're currently excavating our ditches and working on prepping the subgrade for the engineer fill, and so it's moving along pretty well. The Riata Pecos Bridge, we started that project on October 23rd, and the contractor since then has removed the existing structure. We thought we had some conflicts with a fiber line and another copper cable line. Come to find out they were not used, those lines were not active, so we avoided some costly conflicts. But they're working on prepping their subgrade for that as well. They plan on, in the upcoming month, getting the concrete culvert structure built and poured into place. So pretty good progress. Susie Ann Bridge, we do have signed contracts now, and we're scheduling the pre-construction meeting so that we can go ahead and get that one kicked off and moving forward. The road shop north doors and electrical are complete, and that's the last part of those doors. So all 8 doors have been replaced and have new electrical openers on them. The shooting range expansion, the contractor has gotten started. We're about 90% complete on the moving the 360-yard range to the 400-yard, and they're about 50% complete already on the excavations and berms for the new 4 multi-purpose shooting bays.
That Mark's happy.
He can't hardly
Like a little
contain
kid.
himself. But it's looking good around there. They still do have to excavate the retention area because we were expanding it, which also was giving us a little bit of extra material so that we're not having to haul material on site. And then they'll also have the 100-yard range left to build. That's about it.
Couple of questions, Trent. The length of the Riata Bridge or Riata Road, how long is that project? Do you remember?
The base bid, I believe, was, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 120 days. And then with the alternates that was able to be accepted because we came in under budget, I believe that bumped it to 160 days.
4
We're
months?
looking at right now substantial completion the end of March and final completion after punch out first part of April.
Okay. The other thing with the Suzy Ann Bridge, have the notices been sent out to the residents and stuff right there that?
No, we're gonna have those PSAs formed up in the pre-construction meeting that we have scheduled, and then we'll be releasing that out to all the residents and social media, every outlet that we can use.
One other, we got the utility issues on the Alamo Street, all that was,
Yes, the engineer got back with us on the second phase of that in front of the school, and we have some pretty simple fixes we can do to not be in conflict with that big fiber. The only conflict we will have is where it actually comes and crosses the roadway, but we had an on-site meeting with Lumens CenturyLink, and they said that's a pretty simple lowering. They don't have to go through their corporate to get approval for that. We just need to let them know when we're ready, and they said they could be there within a week. So we're not looking at any delays on that. One project I did forget to put on here is the prison re-roof. We had a pre-construction meeting last week. They're getting all the backgrounds on their contractor completed, and then we will be started on that as well. They have all the materials on hand. We were kind of waiting to get that started until we knew they had 100% of the materials, and so now we're going to be getting that ready to go.
cool.
You're busy. All right, thanks,
All right,
Trent.
thank you.
Thanks, Trent.
And Nina is on vacation, the first one she's taken in 3 years, I'm hearing, so
Wow.
she's not here.
So I had questions for Matt, and since he wasn't here, maybe you can answer him, or maybe Julianne, I'm not sure. But I have a copy of a purchase order for a approval of a truck purchase dated December of 2021. And it is, looks like a tanker truck for Borough Flats. And they just still don't have it. And so I understand that COVID hit and supply issues and all that kind of stuff, but the longer we wait, it goes up, what, $5,000 a month, something like that?
I believe once we contract to have it built, the price will not change. But I can't tell you, is that not true? I don't know
Unfortunately.
the status of that truck. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, I mean, I bought a truck in about 2 weeks when I needed one, so I'm not sure why it takes 3 years to buy a truck. And I don't, So-
Julianne, are you familiar with that vehicle?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have information on that. I mean, that would be, purchasing might have more information. But it's one of those where if they receive the grant is available for a certain amount of time. That might be actually an NMFA loan that is paid for part of that. And there they've got a little bit more time to get that paid for. But that particular truck, I can't speak to that, so, I'm sorry.
Some of this is in the more specialized trucks, very frustrating right now. The road department ordered a dump truck with a plow 2 years ago, and it was supposed to be delivered earlier this year, and now we're looking at another year extension, and they're wanting a substantial amount more. And unfortunately, the way the terms of the contract were, they can do that, and they're justifying it based on supply costs that are changing, that are out of their control. And it's a mess. I don't know.
Is there any way we can look into this to see specifically what's holding it up?
We can. There were a couple trucks that were ordered. I don't think it was the Borough Flats Fund, but there was, I think one was for La Luz, and it should have been procured and all good to go, but previous employees thought there was issues with it, and so they, through their own initiative, canceled them. And we've had to go back and redo some of those. I don't think it applies to that one, but if you leave that information with myself or Pamela, we can run it down and figure out what's going on.
And then, when it's time for pickup of these trucks, whatever state they're ready in and all that kind of stuff, I know that Matt goes to pick them up. Wouldn't it be better that the receiver, the fire department, or whatever the agency is, to go pick them up themselves so they can do the inspect of the truck before acceptance?
Matt typically takes an additional person with him for the inspection of those trucks. I believe that is discussed before, who will go with him. I do know that fire chiefs have gone for their departments. I couldn't answer on the specific one you're looking at, but I know that fire chiefs for their departments have gone with Matt, and with Paul Caroli in the past.
Okay.
Tom? Nope.
Did you need Tom?
Well, he had his hand up.
Oh.
RV covered it.
Oh, he did, okay.
Dale
all right.
wants to say something?
During the, you want to sign up?
Fire department thing.
I do have a question on picking up the trucks. When Paul Crowley was in that position, we did pick up our own fire trucks. The county picked up our new 1412. It took me 2 years to get it in service because of the fact that when we picked them up, it had to pass the test, the pump test and everything before we would leave there with it. We got our new 1412. It took me 2 years of taking it back over to to the vendor, and he kept it for almost 2 years before he got it fixed, and we argued back and forth over that truck. So since Matt has taken over, we don't get no option to go, and I'm the fire chief of Borough Flats, and I've gotten 2 new trucks, and they picked them up and brought them to me. I don't even get any say in whether, and I think we should have the option of going and picking it up and making sure that it works before it leaves.
And this one was ordered from Georgia, it looks like. That'd be a road trip.
Right?
And this specific one, I've asked about it, and I get told that we don't have time to work on it. I come out of big business where I just threw them guys out, and they'd had a bond, and I took their bond, and I'd had another truck. My truck has gone up 100,000. I probably have 100,000 in my budget, but I don't want to be broke. So I've asked to get it ordered, and the order is still with Faust Brothers. To get a new order from somewhere else and ask for a grant or a loan for the 100,000. I talked to the state, they say, don't turn the grant back in, or you probably won't get another one. So we need some help from you guys to try to get this thing going. I placed this thing in 2021.
His truck.
12/30 of 21 is when it was ordered. And I followed up on it hundreds of times, and I get these answers like, don't have time, not important to some people. It is important to me and our department.
How much increase, RB, is this one up? Or they, Do
On
you
the
know?
specific truck, I'm not sure.
I talked to him, it was 100,000.
Approximately 100,000?
Yeah. Okay, it's going up from $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Now,
Can we send them something on the legal part of it or some kind of,
I don't know specifically on this one. I would have to look at the terms. I have looked at the terms for the road department's dump truck, and we. It's frustrating that they're not bound to. That one went out to bid, and they're bound to the bid if it changes after 30 days, and the amount of time these are taking. They've already started building it into their offers and all their paperwork. That is a flexible price, and it's subject to change if supply issues impact their cost.
so when that went out to bid, RB, did we send them a change order? Did we change what was bid?
We did not.
So how is that our responsibility? I mean, they gave us a bid, it's gotta be, it's not our fault that we changed anything or delayed anything.
There's I can show it to you after the meeting, the paperwork, but there's a one specific clause that states if things occur that impact the costs that are outside of their control, they aren't bound to the original price submitted. And so if they bring in evidence that the production cost or how any of the costs involved in that have changed due to supply issues, supply and all that, they can stand on that.
So this is a bid deal, so it's just like a contract. If we were having something built, they have to provide performance bond, all their bonds and stuff like that, correct?
I don't know that for sure, so I'm not going to tell you yes.
Commissioners, I can't answer that question, but I am sending an email and copying all of you on the details of this exact purchase, bids, contracts, details, costs, and we'll get a response back.
Essentially, on the flip side is that we aren't bound to it. So if we don't like that the price has changed or the timeline has changed, we're free to go find one somewhere else. But of course, we got to weigh that option, and that's kind of what we looked at the dump truck. I told Tom, I was like, well, we can get out of this, but is there a better option? Is there a cheaper option, or is there a faster option? And neither were the case.
I'm sure there's not very many places that build these specialty trucks, like these fire trucks and stuff, but
There's not, and so
it would be interesting on the bond part, because you can go to their performance bond if they're not performing on what they signed a contract on. So we can look at it.
I don't know for sure. I feel like that's more typically like in construction and not something with equipment, but I don't know. It's certainly worth looking at.
okay, one other thing on that, that's our truck, there's still two other trucks involved in this. There's two other departments that got trucks that they haven't got 300,000 grants. So, it's a lot of money at stake here. And they're in the same boat we are. I just talked to one of them yesterday. His truck he talked to them again, and they raised it 100,000 too. And he didn't even ask for forward. We're hung up because we all ask for four-wheel drive because we're up in the hills, we're mountains, we're really on problem. So we asked for four-wheel drive. And the ones that got two-wheel drives, they got their trucks. Two people got their trucks. And then we were all on the same grant, all had grants.
Do we have the information on all three trucks? Do we know which ones we're looking at?
I don't know what ones are being specifically referenced. Obviously, this one is for Borough Flats. As I said earlier, I do know that one that was slated for La Luz, I said that procurement got canceled, and it shouldn't have. And I think that happened to another one, but I don't know if that's the two that are currently being referenced.
Now, who's got their new truck?
There's another lady with her hand up.
Yes, ma'am? Y'all probably need to come up so they can hear you in the microphone. We'll get complaints at home because they can't hear you speaking.
My main issue is we're in fire season. We're always in fire season. And we haven't had a fire in a long time up there. And our trucks are needed. We're not joking when we say we need them. Because we're going to be fighting this fire, and everybody else is going to be doing it. We help other folks, but we don't have the trucks that we need. So it's not an issue about being, don't have time. Because I heard Matt say, I don't have time. No, you have time. Because a fire will happen at any time, and we need those trucks. And we use them for other folks, not just for La Reseda Canyon. We go to La Luz. We even go to High Rolls, Cloudcroft. We go everywhere that they're needed. But we need the trucks, and this is ridiculous to have to wait. And I understand about back order. But when somebody keeps saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, that is a different issue.
So is Matt the one that needs to call on these? Is Matt the one that needs to call on them, to check on them?
Matt handles the purchases, but ultimately they go through purchasing. So Wendy can also follow up and check on them. It's probably not the best answer. Has not been given, it sounds like, and a fuller explanation should have been provided. But what I do know of these issues and what I've seen is it's completely out of our hands, and we are at the mercy of these suppliers and builders, and they apparently are at the mercy of the supply chain with some of these parts. Like, should have been resolved by now, but like 2 years ago, if you had a Ford diesel and you needed anything, it was like a year, and you just couldn't use your truck. The world got stupid when COVID hit, and it hasn't gotten fixed.
Yeah. But can we have Wendy or Matt one call and just check on these and get a later update on it?
Absolutely.
So we'll know.
I've already emailed both Wendy.
You have?
and
Okay.
yes.
All right. We'll let you know what they find out. They're going to call on it.
I just don't like hearing, don't have time.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't like that either.
I wouldn't like it if I had to say that.
No. Okay. You ready to move on to consent agenda? All right. We're going to move on to the consent agenda items, so I'll read all of these off and then we'll vote on them. Number 2, request approval of accounts payable bill number BL 14, 14A, 15, 16, 17, and 17A. Number 3, request approval of healthcare assistance claims and disposition claims for November 2023. Number 4, request approval of property liens for reimbursement of unclaimed decedent disposition services for November 2023. Number 5, request approval of October 18th, 2023 special meeting minutes. Number 6, request approval of October 12th, 2023 special or regular meeting minutes. Number 7, request approval of resolution number 11-9-23/112-17, budget adjustments, November 2023. Number 8, request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Otero County and Southeastern New Mexico Economic Development District Council of Governments to act as a fiscal agent for grant agreement number 23-H3088 to purchase and equip sheriff's office vehicles in the amount of $323,000. Number 9, request approval to purchase a new laptop for Trent Parker, Otero County Project Manager, not to exceed $1,500. Number 10, request approval to reclassify a transfer station attendant to administrative assistant. Number 11, request approval to reclassify a second communication officer position to a National Crime Information Center assistant. Number 12, request approval to reclassify 2 part-time maintenance custodian to 1 full-time maintenance custodian. Number 13, mobile crisis response 4th quarter report, November 2023. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to move on to the scheduled citizens communications. Ashley Dalton will present on insurance coverage and emergency planning and forest cleanup.
Hi, you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ashley Dalton. I own insurance offices here in Alamogordo as well as one in Ruidoso. The reason why we put together this presentation is with what's occurring in the insurance market, people not being able to find homeowners, but also our areas being rated in a different manner than what we were used to. And so about 2 years ago, when insurance companies started to say they don't want to insure a specific area, I started to ask questions. My degree is accounting, so I don't like general questions. I want to see the formula. Why are you doing what you're doing? Growing up, my mom was actually a volunteer fire department member, and so these things kind of weighed heavy on me. I also did insurance in Prescott, Arizona, for Farmers Insurance when the Granite Mountain fighters lost their lives, and so it's something that I've worked with very closely in regards to those high-risk areas. I reached out, next slide please, to several people with the Department of Forestry about 2 years ago asking for help. I was under the assumption that some of the data was incorrect. Cloudcroft specifically, protection class 3, they did what they needed to do. Why are we being rated higher? Ruidoso, New Mexico, PPC class 2, why are we being rated higher? How come we're seeing declines? What's going on? So I started to ask a lot of questions. Our main assumption was just data was wrong, and we were incorrect. And so Nick Smokovich, which I have included some of his slides from the Urban Fire Summit because we needed a little bit of the data to go along with my presentation, invited me up to the Urban Fire Summit 2 years ago and then invited me back to speak last year with the findings of all of our research between all of us and what it is that we're finding. So if you do have any specific questions on some of the data in this next section, you can actually contact Nick Smokovich directly. He agreed for me to use his slides in regards to the data. So you can go to the next slide. All right, so Otero County, just kind of taking a look at the different entities that we have and the difference between the private property, what kind of encompasses the different types of lands that we see, which is incredibly important because when you're doing those cross boundaries and you're responding in different avenues, we have a lot of boundaries that we actually have to go up against. So that's one of the main things that we have a hard time with. And so that just gives you a little bit of an idea. The BLM actually makes up the majority of what our county is at 36.25%. Then you have the missile range at 18%. And then you also have that Lincoln National Forest, which occupies 13%. And then you have the reservation at 10%, private property at 11%, state at 8%, and then the White Sands National Monument at the 2%. So that basically is our boundaries of when there are emergencies going on that we have to negotiate and cross in the event that we need that emergency response. Here is an example of how the vegetation has changed throughout time. So this is one major thing that we're up against. It's definitely changing. Some of the reasons for the changing is the climate change, people transferring seeds such as that. We do have non-native things coming in as well. But just in general, the landscape is changing, and that's one major thing that we are up against as well. So here is a map of the large fires that we have specifically had in just Otero County. This is one of the major things that they look at. It was actually said just a few minutes ago that Otero County hasn't had a large fire. That's true. It's definitely due for one, and that's something that they see in the trees. So with looking at this, it kind of gives us a little idea of where we're most likely going to be seeing it next, and that's something that they are preparing for. Just in the 2 counties alone, in the last 10 years, there have been 747 fires caused by lightning alone. So this isn't anything man-caused, human-caused, just lightning. So that's a huge number for our 2 counties that they're up against. So what's causing the wildfire crisis? Climate. The climate's definitely changing. The landscape's changing. People's behaviors are changing. People are also building in areas that we didn't have builds in before. So if there was a fire, there were no structures lost. So that's a change that we're seeing as well. They're impacting us more frequently because of people building in areas where it traditionally didn't matter. The fire was caused to help bring vegetation back, but now we're having losses because of that. So next slide. One major thing that we're up against is those cross boundaries at this point in time. There is a cross boundaries initiative out there. Basically, all hands on deck is the best way to explain it. Between the Forest Service and all of the different entities, and this is across all of the west really, they are really trying to get a grasp on the overgrown forests. They're trying to get a grasp on the warming climates, the growing number of homes in those areas, and the wildland urban interfaces, and really just trying to get a grasp on the suppression and try to get the fuels cleared. So, next slide. The major issue for the majority of this is there's only one factor in the wildfires that we can control, which is the fuels. We can't control the oxygen, we can't control the heat. The heat goes along with how hot they're burning as well as the climate. So there's 2 factors in that kind of. But the fuels is one major thing we're up against, and the reality is we have a lot of fuels on the ground. So even in the La Luz area, the High Rolls area, the fuels are growing, the grass is growing. We have a lot of dead stuff on the ground, and that is the one thing that we can control, so it is the one thing that they're trying to pay attention to. Here is an interface map of the cross boundaries that they're currently working on. Anything that you see that has the black lines through it is what's already been worked on during fuels treatments. The ones that are circled are the ones that are coming up next in their plan, estimated 2 to 3 years. The ones that do not have any sort of black outline around them but are colored are the ones in basically the 10-year plan. So for our area specifically, we have a long time before that cross boundaries of all hands on deck is even going to get to us. Next slide. So cross-boundary treatments, what exactly does that mean? Local, state, tribal, private land authorities all working together to share all of their resources to build partnerships and focus on the mitigation of the specific areas. The bottom line is wildfire does not know any boundaries, and that's one difficult thing that we have because we do have a lot of those boundaries in our 2 counties. And so they are starting to work very heavily together, but again, it's going to take time. It takes money. And we're behind. COVID absolutely set a lot of things behind. Even for some of the prescribed burns, they didn't happen. They weren't allowed to have a certain amount of people out there, and it has put things behind even on our local areas. This next section is actually from Nathan Gill. He is the Department of Natural Resource Management. He was one of the speakers at the Urban Fire Summit. He specifically works in Lubbock at the Texas Tech University, and his main job is to pull the statistics for the government in regards to the wildfires and the models that they're currently using. So what is the purpose of a model? Technology has drastically changed things, for good, for bad. They're now using modeling as a way to take a look and see what we are up against. So models can sometimes be wrong, models can sometimes be right, but they're basically taking the data and they are looking to see what could happen in the future. It lets us explore the possibilities based on the relationships that already exist, so they can put such things in like the types of fuels that are on the ground, and very specific, they can even put in different types of trees to see how much quicker they're going to burn. It lets them test different varieties of scenarios. It's a faster way of testing scenarios as well, and it also keeps the price down because you're able to use computer technology in order to do it and to study how dangerous the wildfires can actually be. It also lets us simplify the complexity and isolate the effects of things that are most important. So it basically just gives us a deeper view into how it's going to happen. The models, and I think this is with most people in most scenarios in life in general, you can have the same data and two people look at it completely different. So in this example, the data is the burn possibility compared to what actually burned. You might have somebody say, oh, the modeling was wrong, and then somebody say, oh, it worked perfectly. It pretty much told us exactly where it was going to burn. So that's one thing that all entities are up against. That's our fire community, our emergency community, as well as the insurance companies, because that's something we're up against as well. VeriRisk is the company that does all of the statistical data for the ISO department as well as the insurance companies. So if there's any questions, let me know, because we actually have a contact at VeriRisk as well. Their main basis is they pull statistical data. That's what they specialize in. They do catastrophe modeling. They do catastrophe modeling for flood zones. They do catastrophe modeling for pretty much any emergency response type thing, but specifically they're focusing very heavily on the wildfire because we needed the data in regards to it. With it's just increasing the wildfires. So that's truly what they're focusing at this time, specifically for the insurance companies and the ISO department. The things that they're looking at are what the potential losses are for the weather against the fuels, and putting together all of the data for all of us to look at. They also bundle that with building codes, wildfire mitigations that have already taken place, and the fire suppression. So they kind of take a different aspect of it and group many things together compared to like Nathan Gill, where he just focuses specifically on the fuels and those sorts of things. So they're looking at what type of roof is it? What is it going to burn faster? So they take a deeper dive for the insurance companies than some of the other data. These are some examples of different data that they'll put together to come up with how high risk an area is. They'll look at the temperature, the precipitation, what are the drought records. They look at our grass, shrubs, and then they also look at the forest and the type of forest that it is, because depending on the type of forest depends on how fast it's going to burn and how it interacts and if the forest will eventually come out of it. So here are some of the ratings that are coming directly from our government resources. So this is specific to just Otero County. Alamogordo is in a medium wildfire risk zone. I don't think many people think of that at all. I mean, that's kind of a shocker, to be honest. La Luz, high risk. Cloudcroft, very high risk. It's rated 100% higher than the majority of the communities in the United States. High Rolls, very high risk, same 100%. And Tularosa, which was actually surprising when I pulled that data, is at 79%. Some further data, I actually loaded Flagstaff the other day. They're at a 90%. I'm originally from Arizona, so I wanted to look at some counties that were the same size population, same type of landscapes. Arizona's highest was a 92%. So we are running higher risk than even a lot of the high risk that we think of in Arizona. Some of the data that they look at, and this is something that has been discussed very heavily, is our CWPP plan for our county as well as Lincoln County. So our CWPP plan was updated in 2020, and if you go back and read through it, it absolutely reflects exactly what we're being told by all of the models and by the Forest Service and all the entities, that we definitely have some work that needs to be done in order to drop our high risk status of our communities. Next slide. So here is a list from our own CWPP plan and how we score our own areas, and this of course was done by us, the government here locally in our county. They look at things such as what are the slope of properties, what are the fuels of properties, Fire hydrants, is it a gravel road? Is it a paved road? What is the access of the road? Are they going to be able to get to the property? So there's a bunch of data, and if you do want that CWPP plan, it is available online. Anybody can actually have access to it, and it is updated about once every 5 years. So that's something that we've really been talking heavily about, is when we are capable to make a difference in our community and get fuels cleaned up or better access, is how can we report the data faster so that we can see it reflect faster for our homeowners and the insurance to drop. So how do insurance companies use all of the data that we gather, because we're really just data driven? We don't come up with our own data. It comes from the sources that are being presented, such as the CWPP, Verisk, as well as the ratings that you saw from the Department of Forestry and the Forest Service. Why does it get hard to get homeowners insurance in fire-prone areas? This is significantly changing because the more wildfires, the more money is being paid out. And at this point, just in 2018 alone, we paid over $18 billion insured losses just for wildfires alone. So it's a major hit, and it's something that's being looked at very closely and being analyzed. And this is why you see insurance companies starting to say, wait a second, this might be a little too high for us. We're not willing to accept this any longer. Here is a map of how wildfires have changed throughout the United States. I wish I would have added one more slide too, because actual home fires increased in the year of 2020 as well. With people being home and lockdown, they were using appliances more than they ever had in the past, and we were having more home fires. So bundling with just the wildfires alone and then the fires from homeowners, it was a significant hit in the year 2020. So we are seeing more wildfires, we're seeing more fires, period, during that time than even 20 years before. So significant change. One of the major things that we realized when we were gathering our data of what was going on is the difference in what's being used. And I think this is the most important thing for our communities. The ISO department, which is the Department of Insurance, basically works along with the state fire marshal. And in 1971, they created what is called the PPC codes, the Public Protection Class codes. It's a rating between 0 and 10. And it looked at things such as the fire departments, how many staffing they have on staff, is it a volunteer, what are their trainings, the water supply, how many tankers, is water available to put out fires. 10% actually comes from the 911 resources. Is that operating the way that it should be? And then there's an extra 5% that they added just about 8 or 9 years ago. And Eric Warshing was the one that told me that number because he was on that board. And it's the 5.5% that comes from the community outreach programs and the fire intervention programs that they put together, so you can get an extra point basically if you have some training in place for the locals. That traditionally was what was used for insurance. So the reason why that's important is, take for example Cloudcroft. You know, they had a high PPC code, and then was it 2016 or 17 they were able to drop it down to a PPC 3. It was under the assumption that all the insurance companies were just going to come back in and rates were going to be great, and that didn't necessarily happen. It wasn't just our community. Taos was up against us as well, so was Santa Fe, and basically up north. So people started to question. It's one of the things that I started to question. So we did a lot of research on it. In 2004, the ISO department realized that the PPC was not working for its rural communities. The PPC was designed for urban interfaces. It was not working for volunteer fire departments. Why? Because they're volunteers, so they don't have the same data-driven where you can gauge them in a PPC. So it was making it difficult to give a rating. When they created that, they started to look at the data. They started to look at the mitigation maps. They started to look at the CWPPs, and they came up with a rating which is between 0 and 30. You would think that 15 would be the level point. That's actually not the case. Anything over a fire line 4 is considered high risk. So at this time, a huge majority, including even La Luz. I'm directly across from the Heart of the Desert Winery. I am considered to be a PPC 7 and a high fire line, to where I get denied insurance and I'm right on the highway. So when you're taking a look at La Luz, up the canyon, High Rolls, Tiburon, Cloudcroft, Mayhill, we're up against something very steep. It's a little bit frustrating because when they came out with the ISO fire line, you would think that they would maybe pull in the fire chiefs, they would pull in the local governments and say, okay, we're going to start to look at some other data. It's not just the PPC any longer. Here's what we're going to look at. Well, what they narrowed it down to was looking at fuels around. It's based off of homes, neighborhoods, and then the community in general. So it's not just the entire county. They really do hone in. So they're looking at the fuels, the grasses, the trees, any of the brush around homes. They're looking at the slope to get to the home. And they're also looking at the access. So is it a dead-end road? Do they have a chain across where we could get in if we needed to? So it absolutely changed the way that things were being looked at, and what we're finding right now is it's still under the impression that we're only looking at PPC, but yet we have all of these homes declining due to a fire line rating, and it's not understood where it's coming from. Next slide. Fire lines and protection class actually account for 30 to 50% of somebody's home rating. So when an insurance company comes back and says it's approved or it's declined, that's 50% almost of the decision in that. The other things that they do look at as well is the type of building on the home. Really, they're looking at how's the home going to interact, how is it going to hold up in a fire, what's the probability of losses. So they look to see if it's fire resistant, non-combustible, if it's ordinary, if it's in a heavy timber area, or if it's a wooded area. The other things that they look at too is the roof type, if the home's had renovations, the condition of the property, the size, and the age. So one of the major things in regards to the condition is also what is the condition of the neighbor. We are seeing companies decline somebody's homeowners because of what the neighbor's property looks like. Next slide. The hard part for insurance companies is they have to look at all the data that's being reported from all of the sources and say, what are we willing to accept? So for our county specifically, we are at a 90% rating, and that's just our county. We're still pretty high as a county in general, and then when you hone into the actual municipalities, it's rough. We're definitely high risk, but I can say this, we are not as high risk as Lincoln County. So one of the variables is Cloudcroft and Mayhill, they do get more precipitation, they get more snow, and so we actually have a little bit more of a better rating in regards to some of those things, which is kind of a surprise. Lincoln County is a heavy hit. There's a lot of insurance companies that said, nope, we're not writing insurance, period. They're not even looking at individual homes. Some examples of how the fire lines and the PPCs work together and what the insurance companies look at. So for Farmers Insurance, who I represent, they will not accept anything over a fire line 6. They will not accept anything over a PPC 8. So there are some places right in the middle of Cloudcroft we can write. However, if it's not on the main road, even by the lodge, it's a no-go because of the slope of the property to get to it. So we're up against different variables than in the past. Foremost Insurance has come out and said that they won't accept anything over a 6. They did restrict all new business in Lincoln County. They said they won't accept anything over a fire line 0 and a PPC 8. There is no fire line 0 in Lincoln County. So it's kind of an underwriting way to remove yourself out of a county without getting in trouble with the Department of Insurance. And that's what we're seeing from a lot of the companies. Agents Insurance just released that they will be no longer doing any homeowners in wildfire areas. American Modern is accepting high fire lines, but if it's a vacation rental or a landlord, it's a no-go, and they will not do any insurance within 3 to 5 miles of a wildfire. Scottsdale Insurance, which was traditionally one of our high-risk zones, they actually pulled out in 2021, so we had about 300 non-renewals, just my agency alone in Cloudcroft, all the way through No-Gal. They did not segregate between counties. They just said anything on the mountain, it's gone. So non-renewals across the board. State Farm was the only company that traditionally used a PPC. 2 years ago, they adopted the fire line, and September 15th, they just dropped their acceptability to a 6 as well. So what we're seeing right now is State Farm is referring things to other companies because they don't have outside lines. And then AU Gold, which was one of our high-risk ones, they only use protection class as a rating. However, they will not write anything above an 8, or that is like an 8-9 split. So it's kind of tough right now. Here are some examples of declines. These are basically what you see when they come back from the insurance companies. I've been in insurance a long time. It used to be where we could go take photos of properties laying on the ground to see the slope, take a picture of the fire hydrant, kind of prove that it wasn't high risk. That's not the case any longer. They are basically using the data that's been provided from the models. They're using the data that's been provided from the Forest Service and all of the municipalities and their CWPP plans. So we do not have the option any longer to rebuttal anything. And the hard part is when they come back declined, they're not coming back saying declined for PPC. They're coming back saying declined for fire line. So we're back to the issue where traditionally we only looked at PPC, and PPC is not solving the issue as of this time because of this new rating. So that's what we're truly struggling with, is how do we change the data on the fire line? Fuels. It's the only thing besides access. We can widen roads, have more paved roads, less gravel, make the access a little easier, but fuels is the main thing that we can basically have more control over. Next slide. So that's actually one property and 4 different declines. That's how many times we had to get through. Here is a decline for Cloudcroft, and the reason why I wanted to show this is because this company gives us not only what the PPC code is, which is a 3, but it tells us what the fire line code is. Some companies will actually give us the data on what it's coming out as. Some companies just have a flat decline, go somewhere else. So I kind of like this company just because it allows for us to see how it's being rated, and it actually gives that data. Same property, 2 other different companies. Declines for fire line. Some examples of our own area. Alamogordo in itself, it's a protection class 2, fire line 1. We can write most homes in Alamogordo unless there's condition issues with the home, to be honest. If it has missing shingles, peeling paint, anything like that, or if the neighbor's property next door needs to be cleaned up, it's going to be a decline, and they're very heavy on those right now. Cloudcroft, you're looking at a PPC 3. Most fire lines, the average is an 8 there, so it's a decline for most companies. Mayhill, you're looking at an 8-9 protection class split, depending on how far away they are from just general Mayhill. And then La Luz is actually pulling in as a 6-9 due to the volunteer fire department. And then the fire lines in La Luz in the canyon are actually pulling as 11s. So they're very high. How much does home insurance rise after a fire? 40% on average. So we're experiencing this in Lincoln County right now. We're not experiencing this here, but the data is showing that we're up for a major fire because we have not had one. With the Ponderosa Pines, like what we have, it's estimated that there's a fire, and this is from the data from inside the pines. They do cut them and evaluate every 5 to 10 years. So if this was to happen on top of being high risk already, we're going to be in a bigger mess. Lincoln County is a mess right now. Average insurance, you're looking at about $3,000 to $5,000 a year. Yeah. How to help save your home. Create a 30-foot fire break for the home. Keep the roof and the rain gutters and the needles out. Keep firewood, flammables at least 20 feet away from the home. Update the roof to materials that are non-combustible and remove anything stored underneath the home. So this is one major thing that we're trying to discuss with people, which can absolutely help. But even this at times is difficult, even on an insurance level. So who are you to tell me what I can and can't do with my property? You're right. We can only tell you what we're willing to accept on your property, and that's difficult right now. This is just an example of the break that most entities are suggesting to save homes. This is very difficult. We're really up against this right now in Lincoln County. The emergency response and the county commissioners, they're having a hard time. What do you do in the county when there's a lot of ranchers and stuff? You can't tell them to clear everything. Joe Kenmore, who just retired, is saying it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. There's a happy medium in this. What if we just clear a break between, one house to the next one? I don't know what the solution is to all of this. It's very difficult when you have large pieces of property and you do have those cross boundaries to come up with a solution. And in order to find a solution, everybody's going to have to work together. So we know that there's an issue. It's proven by the data. We know what we need to do, but how do we do it? It costs money. It takes time. And then even when you do it, it takes time for the data to be reported in order for it to make a difference for the homeowners. I do have some of these resources available if anybody would like any. I have boxes and boxes from the Urban Fire Summit of Living with Wildfire. So anybody reach out to me, I can drop them off. It does give examples. It's a very good pamphlet about how to work on your home, and then also different people that you can reach out to for help too. So there are funds available for people who are wanting to clear their land. Get in contact with me because there's millions of dollars out there available. The problem is some people say, well, I didn't buy property in the mountains to remove the trees. They don't want to do it. And so that's kind of what we're up against from the insurance standpoint. Every company's different. So State Farm wants you to have the clearing certificate. Farmers Insurance is okay with trees within 30 feet of the home. They just don't want it up against the home, rubbing or the limbs over the home in the event that embers were to get in the limbs. Some companies just don't care. Some companies want pictures of all four sides. Because of the current insurance atmosphere, most insurance is taking a little bit longer. We have to come take photos of the property and submit them to underwriting before they're ever approved. So it's getting more difficult. It's taking more time. We're currently asking for a minimum of about a week because not only do we have to get photos, but we have to go through company after company after company to find one that's willing to accept it. I wanted to touch on this just a little bit because for our areas that are high wildfire, we have two things going on. We have the high wildfire rating bundled with just the changes in insurance after the last 3 to 4 years. So COVID hit insurance companies very difficult. Insurance companies hire statistical analysts to tell us what we need for 3 years in our reserve. Every insurance company has to have a reserve. It's basically our bank account. We're told how much money we need to have in that bank account. Well, when COVID happened and the rising building costs started to happen, but the claims have not slowed down, it drained the majority of insurance companies' reserves. So at that point, the government steps in and says, you've got two options. You can put more money back in your reserve or close your doors. You are seeing companies close their doors. Kemper Insurance, around 95 years, closed their doors. There are companies saying no auto home products through the end of 2024. It's made a big impact on everything. So you have a shakeup with insurance companies trying to figure out, do we continue to stay in business? If so, we have to raise our rates. How do we do that? Where can we cut expenses? The other thing is the long insurance claims history. The climate control is absolutely affecting. And they're really struggling with what to do in regards to that. The high cost of materials or labor is the second thing. So not only are we seeing minimum wage increase, but we're also seeing the backlash of you're having to pay your employees more after COVID because a lot more people are working from home. And so the more qualified people are wanting more money. And then the natural disasters increasing as well. This is a list of the ratios and how much money each company lost at the first quarter of 2022. Pretty significant. I do want to say something in regards to that too. So there's different types of insurance companies. Some of them are stock market companies. Some of them are reciprocals, the old idea of insurance. Basically, the farmers get together, open a savings account, and if something happens to them, each neighbor basically put money in, and that's how it's paid. Right now, every single type of insurance company is struggling, which is something that's different. Traditionally, it was just one or the other. But for those companies that put money in the stock market and hope to gain have also lost. So it's a negative hit on that end as well. So they're struggling there too. Next slide. What do the insurance companies do when they start to lose money and they can't make it? They move out of high-risk areas. They reevaluate the acceptability in areas. So we are currently seeing this with the majority of companies. They are now starting to do what is called an aerial inspection. It's hit or miss, I'll be honest. Some of the aerial images are wrong, like maybe they took a picture of the neighbor instead of that house, so there's a lot of rebuttal. We have to go out, take photos, and disprove the data. That is happening in Alamogordo right now. So we have homeowners being non-renewed because their roof hasn't been updated. They have too much foliage around the home. Maybe they have junk around the home, debris. That's a tough one to explain when the letters get received to the insureds, to be honest. I had a lady tell me the other day, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot have as lawn ornaments in my yard? You're right. I can just tell you what we're willing to accept again. It's, so we're kind of stuck in the middle on that. They tighten their underwriting, so they want renovations done in the last 15 years. They don't want the older homes. They want the properties to be cleaned up. They're re-inspecting their properties, not just by aerial, but also in person. They're cutting their advertising, they're reducing agent commissions, and they're also reducing corporate employees. So there are tons of articles out there just in the last 90 days of large companies laying off 11%, 12% because they can't sustain. So that's their choice and how to make it through what's going on. Repercussions of insurers losing too much money. This is what we're currently seeing, and it's very difficult because it's not just insuring your home, it's also being able to get a new mortgage. It's also being able to sell your home. So for the people who are in those high wildfire areas, this is an issue. People coming in are either having to pay cash or they're having to pay more out in their debt to income ratio. And put more money down in order to get the homes closed. So it is trickling down and it's starting to become a big issue. The home sales are starting to decline in the high wildfire areas. One of the major things that the insurance companies are scared of is when your rating decreases, meaning they look at you and say, okay, you don't have enough money in your reserve account. In the event of a catastrophe, we're not going to be able to pay. They drop you down in your rating. So you can go from an A+ rating down to an A negative, an A negative, a B+. And if you get to B, you can no longer offer mortgage products. Allstate Insurance just got lowered to a B. So at this point, there are discussions, what do we do? Farmers Insurance, I did see a thing out stating that they are going to be lowered, and State Farm will be as well. We're not quite to B's just yet, but yes, that's happening. So then what happens for somebody who needs to get mortgage insurance? It's going to be more expensive and it's going to be very difficult. The way that it happens is when insurance companies start to pull out and there's less of them available, the insurance companies that stayed are going to be more expensive. So kind of that supply and demand type thing. They can go into bankruptcy, they can become insolvent, and again, less insurance companies in the area means higher premiums on that. So the hard part is the government creates what rating we are depending on what amount is in our reserves. So next slide. How can our local community decrease their rates? They can take larger deductibles, talk to their insurance agents, review their building coverage A, because it's very particular to each homeowner. Everybody's home is completely different. Insurance companies are replacement cost. They are not market value. There is systems that every insurance company uses that is called a replacement cost estimator. They are groups of engineers. There's about 3 of them. There's Marshall & Swift, 360 Valuation, and they specialize in telling us what it's going to cost to rebuild your home in the ground up in the event of a claim. And so it used to be that we used to be able to play with those features just a little bit. Take, for example, somebody would say, oh, I don't think it's going to cost that much money. You need to lower my rate. So we could kind of go into the system and say, okay, well, we could do this. Let's change your kitchen to an economy kitchen. No go any longer. There have been too many claims with the insurance companies where an agent did something like that and there was not enough money to rebuild the home when there was a loss. So most insurance companies now do not mess with that variable. We have to put the features in, such as the square footage, the type of countertops, the type of flooring, the type of roof, what's the square footage of the decks, what type of decks, does it have a basement, and the number that pulls up is the number that we have to use. So some are getting so picky on it that they actually make the insureds sign and date that that's the correct data. If somebody wants to rebuttal the data, they have to go and be re-inspected. So somebody comes to the home and takes photos to say, yes, when the insured said, I don't want to insure it that much, and some features were changed, that the action of changing the features was substantiated. So it's kind of a big deal nowadays. What to do if you're experiencing non-renewals or declines, which we absolutely are. Talk to your current agent. They might have some other packages available. There is also, the last bulletin up there is the state pool. There is an insurance by the state pool. They just increased the minimum value to $300,000, so that would work for Alamogordo. It's a building replacement cost. When you get to High Rolls, Cloudcroft, Ruidoso, those areas, $300,000 is not enough. So it's not an option for those people buying homes because it's not enough money. So one of the things that we have been discussing is the availability to maybe bump that to $500,000 because it's needed. Shop insurance, evaluate your home's condition and maybe decide if there's something that needs to be done there. Next slide. So where do we go from here? We have to educate. Right now, that is the hardest part. Educate the new people moving into the high wildfire zones, trying to come up with ways to get to them. You know, that saying, I didn't move here to get rid of the trees. We understand. Nobody wants you to cut all of those trees. Let's educate you on how we can do fuels cleanup and protect your home without removing all those trees. There have been talks to do several different things, newsletters out to the new people who are moving into communities. In Lincoln County, we have discussed a magazine, and I think that's the avenue we're going. We are asking for grant money for the postage of them. We wanted to do an email to all new homeowners, but Lincoln County doesn't gather email addresses, so we can't do that. They did get a grant for a new system, so maybe that will work. In Otero County, I'm working along with Eric Wershing for Cloudcroft and those volunteers. We're going to start to do some community meetings and talk to the homeowners and talk to the locals in regards to these sorts of things. It's so bad in certain areas, like the Robin Hood area specifically. We have people that maybe their property's okay, but the neighbor's not, and they're not here, they're in Texas. And so we have had people go and clear up the neighbor's yard for them because otherwise they weren't going to get insurance. And so it's kind of a difficult thing. The other thing is bridge the gaps of what reporting styles are being used. So that fire line not being looked at is a major issue. And the crazy thing is Eric Wershing called me after the Urban Fire Summit and said, I remember the meeting when they passed that. Okay, well, why wasn't it discussed that we need to start to look at those because that's going to be an effect on somebody's homeowner's insurance? Why is it just under the assumption that the PPC is looked at? So as you can tell from all of those declines, we are looking at more than the PPC. The fire lane is just as heavily weighted. So how can we get better access? How can we clear the fuels? All hands on deck. The cross-boundary treatments. We're talking about it. That's huge. The entities are talking about it. We just have to act on it, but then we're up against that same issue of when we do get it taken care of, how long is the data going to report? And it's definitely something we're up against. Our PPC was updated in 2020. The Lincoln County one was done in 2019, but it wasn't reported till 2021 due to COVID. So there was a delay in that. The crazy thing is the data was reported in 2021. The McBride fire did not happen until 2022. Exactly what the data was saying is what happened. And so that model was correct on that avenue. We all have to understand that technology is changing and they are using technology to look at our areas. So again, how can we change the data that's being used? We have to be understanding of each other. This is really big, especially in the insurance industry right now. We're referring things to, we don't care what business you are. If we think you're going to be able to write it, we're doing that. State Farm, back forth, Allstate, and we're just really trying to do what's best for the clients and understand what would be a better company that they can get accepted in. And remember, it takes time. It's not going to change overnight, but the more discussions we have, the more people we have on board to make a difference and create those defensible spaces, the further we'll be. And I think that's it. Are there any questions?
I'm a home builder and I'm listening to a lot of people that are having a hard time, especially on the upper end homes, higher end homes. They're not wanting to insure them, and they're asking for all the cost, material costs for the house, for replacement value and all that. So it's turned out to be a big deal. And in the mountains, I can really understand with the fire lines. And you kept mentioning some of the areas that we're predicting to have a fire up there. What areas are they predicting?
So pretty much everything from high rolls up, the mountain range in itself. So you're looking Tiburon all the way through the Mayhill area. Yep.
The whole mountain?
The whole mountain. Yep, Lincoln County has kind of sustained theirs. And that's the other thing too that we've really heavily discussed is the wind patterns. So our wind is coming from the southwest to the northeast. Building defensible space that protects the communities in that pattern. So specifically the McBride fire, that's exactly the way that it took. What if we had created a better defense on the Gavilan Canyon north side, knowing that that's where the wind was going to go anyways? They've been trying to keep a lot of their focus on the south end of things, and so it's been discussed maybe it needs to move. That's something that Eric and I are going to sit down and discuss too for the Cloudcroft area. But Eric also wants to have some meetings to discuss the data, because that's the hard part, the technology end of things. What is it that everybody's looking at? We're kind of behind in the times on some of this, and just the reality that technology is what's telling us what's going to happen is kind of a hard concept. So that's probably the biggest thing we're up against, is the understanding that it is working. A lot of the areas that they have predicted, it is spot on. And so how can we change the data that's being reported to where it doesn't happen?
The Forest Service is trying to work up a program, what do they call it? It's around Cloudcroft itself. Have y'all?
Nick was at that meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're familiar with what they're?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to that thing, and that's one of the things that was discussed at the meeting. It's the time. Even if we ran out today and we're able to clear all the fuels up, how long is it going to take to report to the state of New Mexico that that has been done?
Years.
Years. Now, on the insurance end, they do look like at a now, and so that is one of the benefits. We can go take photos. If they're saying, okay, give me a photo of the house, let's take a look and see what the fuels are around it. So we can't rebuttal the data of the fire line and the protection class, but we can go show, hey, this person made an attempt on clearing. And so it is making a difference, but that takes time too. So yeah, it's a big deal.
It is a lot.
I want to thank you. When I went to Ruidoso to that meeting, I had no idea that we had a jewel of a citizen with this much knowledge. I mean, your presentation was fantastic, and thank you for coming and showing us today. First couple of months that I was county commissioner, I went to some Firewise programs and classes and all that kind of stuff, and I got to nosing around on Otero County's reporting, and Otero County had 0 reports on anything. Mm-hmm. Have you looked at that in the last couple of months to see if there's an improvement on reporting and the accuracy?
Yeah, so they're really trying on all of it. They're trying to get their reports out. That's another thing that Eric wants to talk about as well. He kind of wants to create a panel. And it was discussed at the CWPP about giving better and more detailed information in our own CWPP plan. So for those individuals that are on that team that goes in and evaluates our own area, be more detailed, because they are being looked at. So the more data that we can input into them, the more of a difference we're going to make. But yeah, we recognize that it's an issue. Again, it's kind of one of those things, it's not a big deal. It absolutely is, and it's affecting us. And so I think now people are starting to see it. People are starting to comment. You guys probably have people coming to you left and right, because we do see that that's happening. And so that's why we wanted to have the discussions and educate, because one, the data's not wrong. Two, what we're using is not what's being reported. And so we have to bridge that gap. We have to make sure that what's being reported is what we're doing to make that difference.
That was going to be my next question too. That the Firewise program funds emergency turnarounds and access roads and all of that kind of stuff. Is there a way that the insurance industry can advise where these roads are most needed?
Yeah, so what we're up against isn't something that's rare. Montana really just went over their curve with all of this, and so WUI is actually taking a lot of the data from Montana and working along with the insurance companies. There's actually a weekly webinar of insurance heads with WUI on things that they can make a difference. And what the insurance companies are doing is advising, here's where we see that we can make a difference. Look at the slopes of these roads, look at the access. So one major thing Joe Kenmore talked about specifically for our areas in Lincoln County was the fire trucks are a little bigger than what they used to be. Homes are burning faster, they have to carry more chemicals. During the McBride fire, there were 5 or 6 homes that they had to bypass because he's not legally allowed to put his staff in danger trying to get to a house that didn't have the correct access. So these are things that we absolutely are being discussed. The insurance companies are using the modeling and how wide, but that also goes to a building compliance end of things. Changing our codes to say we need wider roads, we need better access to get to the properties. So it's an all hands on deck with different crossing the boundaries of even the municipalities, the ordinance, the codes in order to get it done. Yep.
I know that Vicki and I have attended the meeting in Cloudcroft, and there's going to be another meeting organizational for addressing our CWPP and all of that. Would you be willing to be part of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Eric, I'm sure Eric will fill you in.
Yes. Yeah. He called me right after and was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about these things being passed. And I said, you were there when they passed the fire line? And he said, yes. And I said, why didn't they take all of you guys in and say, okay, now that we passed this fire line thing and this is another variable we're going to be looking at, why didn't they educate it? I don't know. Okay, well that seems to have been the logical thing to do if it was going to be such a rating used by the insurance companies to insure our community. So yeah, he was pretty funny.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything the county can do to help these people get insurance?
Yeah.
I mean, just please let us know.
Awesome. And anything that you guys need, give me a jingle, any of the data as well. There are way more slides that I did not include, but if you want all of the data from Nick and Nathan, they each had about 40 to 50 slides. I just felt it was important to have the actual data from them showing what's being reported. I can give that to you guys as well. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
You're welcome. Okay, Kelly and Michael. Are you both still awake?
I'm Kelly Lynch with the Flickinger Center for Performing Arts.
Michael Gutierrez with the Flickinger Center for Performing Arts.
We'd appeared before you asking for grant for money for improvements to the Flickinger Center. And we're coming before you today to ask if we can move some of that money that was set aside for a company switch for power over to microphones instead. When we were looking at the company switch, there's some issues with getting the amperage into the building for that company switch with P&M. We're basically already at the limit for one structure, and to get an additional amperage to go to that company switch, they'd want to put in ground transformers and stuff like that. And with the alley the way it is, there's really not enough room. So that's going to have to require a different way of thinking of how to pull this. In the meantime, the microphone system we have used, it's we went to go to expand it, and it turns out that that system is no longer supported. So we can't just expand it, we have to replace it, which completely removes the old one from being able to be used due to frequency issues. So we were wondering if that $9,000 that we had budgeted for the company switch could be instead reallocated for microphones.
I certainly don't have a problem with that. I talked to Tim about
Commissioners,
it.
Lori Black reached out to me a couple of months ago and said they wanted to reallocate those funds. We do have an agreement that specifies in the exhibit their application on what they were going to spend it on. This is just to make sure you're okay. We'll change that agreement, make an amendment to include that in their purchase. It's not a big deal. I just want you to be aware, and we have to amend that agreement because if finance gets an invoice to reimburse and it's not what was included in the agreement, we cannot reimburse.
Right. Okay. All right. You guys good with?
I am good with that.
All right. Do we need to vote on it?
No.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And everybody needs to go see The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
It's the final weekend, and it's amazing.
Oh, yeah, the kids are amazing. We've got some great talent here in
Yeah,
Alamogordo,
we
or
do.
Otero County.
Yeah. Gotta show them off.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, Adrian Smith?
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you? And thank you for having me. I'm President and CEO of the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition. I'd like to try and be as brief as Michael Gutierrez was. We're a statewide organization, a 501c3, and we advocate for and train caregivers so that they may better serve people who are elderly and those with disabilities. You have in your package a hard copy of the Listening to Caregivers report. These are a series of listening sessions that we conducted, 10 sessions over the summer, and all across southeastern New Mexico. And Alamogordo was our first stop. And I've got to say, Otero County just kind of blew me away with the support that we got from your citizens, from your county commissioner, Barella, from your senators and your state representatives. The way that we conduct these listening sessions is we ask elected officials to come and greet the constituents and welcome them to the location, and then to sit back and listen to what caregivers have to say. Our constituents are both paid professional caregivers, but they're also either paid or unpaid family members who care for loved ones. The reason we did the listening sessions this summer was because we wanted to say thank you to all of the legislators who supported our legislation in 2023 session, which advocated for better quality work, better quality jobs for caregivers of people with developmental disabilities. And we got that opportunity. But the other reason that elected officials are so important to this conversation is because these are Medicaid-funded programs that pay for care to people who are elderly and those with disabilities. In other words, legislators and the governor and elected officials have a stake, not only have a stake in how the funds are used, but they have responsibility in how the funds are used because these are publicly financed programs. So we had a wonderful turnout over all across the summer, all over the summer. I think your Commissioner Barella, thank you so much again. You all passed a resolution supporting caregivers in July that was right on the heels of this session that we held in Alamogordo. The response to this report, but also I want to hone in just on your county. The response to the report and my recent testimony to Legislative Health and Human Services has just been remarkable. Bipartisan, I'm sorry to say that it's probably because we're facing a workforce crisis right now, and everyone is affected by the crisis, the direct care workforce crisis. So everything that we can do to help lift up these workers, make for better quality jobs, better pay, better benefits, better training, better professional development, whatever we can do, we love help. We try to advance these kinds of things, whether they're legislative, whether they're around advocacy, or whether they're just around training. But the resolution that you all passed is just exactly the kind of thing that we love to see and that we want to promote and put out in our newsletters. We now have a personal care services cost study bill that we've already have prepared and that we floated around the legislature and that I presented to Legislative Health and Human Services Committee in late October. And the first person who asked a question from this committee was Representative Block. I'm sorry, I can't remember if he's a senator or House representative. But he was very supportive of this bill, and that's what I would like to ask for your help in today. If I could send to your wonderful staff a copy of this personal care services cost study bill, is it something that you would consider either resolving to support or even asking, even in your regular role as citizens, asking your state representatives and senators to help pass in the 2024 session? And I just stand for questions if you have any.
Yes, send us the information. We'll be happy to do what we can to support that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody on the sign-up sheet? Okay, we're going to take a break. Uno momento. Okay. She's right there.
I didn't see any signatures on either one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody signed up.
Yeah.
December 7th, instead of 14th. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, we're gonna get started so we can get this show on the road. Is everybody ready? You ready to click us on or whatever you gotta do? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to our new business. Request the Board of County Commissioners to select an option to improve the Weed Convenience Center. I know we'd all been up there, we looked at that area and looking at all these different, I mean, just what I think I'm leaning towards is the cattle guard, the camera, and then maybe if we need to at a later point to add the fence.
Okay, this is a very confusing deal, so we need to back up and we need to get a little explanation.
Okay,
Because I was really confused on a lot of it. So I don't know if Trent or Pamela, which one of y'all wanna?
He's dug deeper in some of the costs with fencing, poles, cameras, so we'll let Trent lead off and I can add to it if anything's missing.
Okay.
I didn't see you, you moved. You was over there.
we're losing them.
Back in the hot seat. No, I was approached with trying to get some costs to see what we were looking at to mitigate the animals and the trash up there. So I went and got a cost for a camera to start with, and what this is a IP cloud-based recording camera, so that Ralph can monitor that site remotely from down here, so he could look, see how full the cans are. If somebody was illegally dumping, he can identify, who was responsible for it and such. So the camera is a little more expensive than a standard camera, but it's because of the cloud-based recording and remote access to it. And I mean, you can pretty much access it from anywhere.
And how much is the camera?
The camera
What,
installation
89
and
or
all was $8,500, and if you
Oh
look at the
my
line
goodness.
item, a lot of that's labor and commissioning because of the location. I mean, you're bringing this company from Albuquerque to Wheat, New Mexico, so they have a pretty good cost in getting their crew there, getting everything set up.
I
doing
have
the
cloud
full install.
cameras
This also
that are
includes
solar
3
charged.
This also includes 3 years of the licensing for it, because you have to have special licensing for the recording devices.
I have solar panel charging each camera. You have to do your own little app thing, and you can look at it anytime you want to. It records and all that kind of stuff, and it isn't even a tenth of that cost. Where are you getting those costs?
The good thing about these cameras is the warranties involved with it.
Well, we can buy 10 of them. That way
along
we're
with-
extras.
Along with the capabilities that come with it, you can, if you knew what a vehicle looked like, you can go in there and enter in, it was a blue Chevy between this date and this date, or this time and this time, and it'll actually bring up what any blue vehicle that passed by that camera in that time frame. It'll also record their license plate number. It's a pretty neat little system. This is also the same system we've looked at for the fairgrounds. This is pretty much the same system we recently put in the EOC and at the dispatch center.
Well, I already jumped up and down about the cost of the fairgrounds cameras with you. So you already know how I feel. There's
Well,
gotta be cheaper versions. I mean,
we're bound to procurement on a lot of this stuff. We can't just go buy what we want. We have to price it out. This was an estimate to know what kind of pricing we were looking at, because they had an estimate done themselves back when they put in for that legislative grant for the fairgrounds. And one factor they didn't factor in is prevailing wages. Anything over $50,000, we have to pay prevailing wages by state law. And so that jumps your labor up significantly on a project over 50,000, which it was estimated originally at 112,000.
Why can't it be in-house?
That I don't know.
With a $1,000 camera, Abe, think he knows how to install a camera. You mount the camera, and I mean, why do we have to spend?
One thing we're bound to is on the application for the legislative funds and the way the agreement is written up. It has to be a IP-based camera system. I mean, it had specifics in there of how it was written up.
I think we need to do a little bit
So
of
we
research.
can't just change that now and go with something different. So the estimate that I got for the fairgrounds was based off of what was proposed and what was in the agreement.
Yeah. I think we need to do a little more research on the cameras and find cameras that are $1,000, not $8,000, because they're out there and they do just as much fancy stuff. And if we're saving $7,000, so we have to look through cameras for a blue truck, I mean,
Right.
we can do that.
No, and we do have to get 3 prices on this, but they also have to be comparable products as well to what best suits our needs for up there. And like I said, no matter what, you have to pay for the licensing on the cloud-based recording systems.
That's like $100 a year. So,
Yeah, per license.
per camera, yes, that's correct. So we've got to do something. But other than that, I think the cattle guard and the fence and the cameras are a perfect idea. But that's just too much money.
So, Commissioner Burrell, I kind of tend to agree with you on that. Like, I've got a $100 blink system in my horse stall, and I can access it from my phone and see what's going on in real time. So really the question is, what capabilities do you want? Do we just want to be able to see if the dumpsters are full and if Ralph needs to empty them? Or do we want to be able to catch people illegally dumping or dumping incorrectly and be able to actually track them down and give them a criminal summons for whatever they've done? So I think that's kind of where we're at.
I have the blink, but I also have these little solar that you have no way to have electricity to. So they got a little solar thing on it and a camera. And I think there's like $150 and $100 a year to be able to save everything in the cloud. And so no electricity, and it reaches the internet, I mean, 150 feet or something like that. It's got a pretty good reach. And you can buy 5 of those cameras and angle it for every single license plate, everything goes through there. I mean, $8,000 is way too much.
And that's another thing with this, is it's a multi-directional, so it's going to go on the corner of the building. It'll be able to monitor the front of the fire station, the road coming in, and the dumpsters, all within view of it.
I think the main thing we needed it for was just so Ralph could know when he needs to go pick up the trash mainly. I mean, I don't know, the law enforcement, how much time we would want to be chasing down people. I mean, I don't know if that would be worth an $8,000 camera to do that.
It all just depends on what we can get from the video itself.
You can always start with the cheap option and see how it's working, and if we aren't satisfied with the capabilities or what we're getting from it, then look at the more expensive option.
Okay. I would be for that.
Yeah, I can send you info, or you can just Google it. I mean, that's how I found them. And I've had them 2 years, I think, and no problems, you can look on there anytime and...
Well, and what my goal was on getting these prices was just to kind of give a high-end price for what it could possibly cost.
Yeah?
Because I don't want to give you a low price and then it end up being more than that.
Mhm.
And especially on the fence.
Yeah.
The fence is a higher end cost.
Trent and I have kind of got together a little bit and talked on this. We both kind of went back and talked, and then we found out some other information. If we used to cut this cattle guard down to a 30 or a 32 foot, somewhere in that area, you're looking at a little picture of it here, move the cattle guard into here, and then do swing gates going into the dumpster area. And then, of course, this electric pole would have to be relocated. And then the fire department up there, correct me if I'm wrong, came in and said that they would do the fence. So I'm sure it's not going to be a chain link fence like what was proposed from that uphill, but they were proposing a $77,000 fence job. But if they redo the barbed wire fence, and then if we can work something out with Ralph when they do make drop off or something, if we could get his guy just to do a quick sweep, we could eliminate that, save money on not having to have that fence.
So we are definitely working with the fire department because I don't want to be any interference in anything we do in emergency services.
They were going to propose a 30-foot gate in the fencing deal to begin with, and the fire chief said a 30-foot or 32-foot cattle guard would be way more than sufficient.
Okay, good.
I spoke with them 2 weeks ago, and with the not just the fire department, but members of the community, and they said they were good with the cattle guard, and they reiterated they could build a simple barbed wire fence and would be sufficient.
But we would be saving a lot of money if we went with the cattle guard deal, and then whatever y'all decide on the camera.
And then we got the $1,500 to move that pole.
Yeah, I reworked the numbers on the 80-foot cattle guard using Tom's unit pricing per like crib set and per grid set, which two of those grids would be sufficient. It'd take that total from 27,000 to 12,235 for a 30-foot.
27 to what?
To 12,235.
I like that better.
Yes. And then
Doing a-
8,000
doing a
off of that
30-foot.
camera.
Ralph, you had some?
Yes, the chain link fence was for two purposes. One, to control blowing litter and to keep the horses out.
Right.
So if you go with a barbed wire fence,
Not gonna help with
it's
blowing
not gonna
litter.
help with the litter blowing out into the fields or anything else.
But a lot of that main deal is from the and I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but the picture I received the other day is probably the same one you received, was from those 5 horses throwing it out of the dumpster on the
Yes.
ground.
But, you know, the horses are probably 75% of the problem, but the people are 25%.
Yeah. But that's why I was wondering if we could, when they made their swap, if they would have enough time, if they made a quick sweep, if they're just doing it, I don't know how many times you go up there a week, twice?
2 times, sometimes 3.
But if they just walk the fence real quick, I bet they wouldn't even pick up a Walmart bag full. I mean, maybe,
They do that now.
yeah, do they?
Yeah.
But,
Every time they go, they clean up. But where do you stop to clean up that 200 feet into the fields?
well, I understand
You
that.
know?
When we were up there, the trash was well within the 200 feet
Oh, yeah, but.
to the
I'm
next
just-
fence.
I've done this many years and I've seen it where I've had to send people up there for a day or two to go way out to pick the trash back up. And like you say, a lot of it's due to the work.
So what we looked at was just trying to, not really simplify it, but make the cost down, but it's, what is what is your feelings on it? What is it that you would really like? I mean,
I don't know which way the prevailing winds blow there, but at least a partial fence that would gather the trash and not let it blow out into the fields. You know, stationed on where the prevailing winds would blow. Doesn't have to be real high, but, you know, it could be 6 foot high.
Trent had a good aspect on that. Even if we did the 8-foot fence around with the dumpsters and they're full, you're not going to catch the top of it. Of course, if it blows, I would probably presume most of those winds are going to come down out of that canyon from the
west
to the west toward the east.
That's how it was that day we were up there. They
Yeah.
went to the east.
I mean, it would catch it on that far side. The ones on the west side by the dumpsters, I don't know that would catch that much unless it's just people throwing it over on the ground, you know.
But what I would like is basically the camera and moving the pole over and maybe doing a little dirt work there where we go in and out to get our cans. And then the fencing is up to you guys.
Well, the camera, the moving the pole and getting the dirt work done, I'm all for that part. That's a definite there.
Okay.
But if the fire department has money for the fence, then yeah, chain link would be the cream of the crop if we had our wish list. But
So would the fence be across by the road to prevent the horses from going next to the building?
have you seen this picture?
I don't think so.
And Trent can probably give you the best talk. That's
Oh,
what.
okay, the yellow is the fence?
Yes.
Okay.
And then where your double gates, right there in front of where the pole is, to stop anybody, just your people can go into the dumpsters.
Mhm.
And then he's moving the gate in, what was it, 30 feet or something off the road?
It's about 25 foot, yes.
To where you could park, not be in the road and get
Right.
in.
It's about to the end of where your concrete retaining wall comes down. It's going to corner
The
right
gates
there.
would open in or slide sideways?
To go into the dumpster area?
Yeah, I mean,
They'd just be swing gates, so they could swing in or out.
okay.
The-
As long as
we
it wouldn't get in the
originally-
way of the trucks.
Right.
Right. We originally priced a 30-foot power sliding gate because it was said before that cattle guard wasn't an option, but then, but the gate was a significant cost. If you guys would like, I can give you a copy of it. I got a revised price eliminating the power gate, and it took it from $77,000 to $49,900. So it's a pretty good drop because the power gate not being on there.
Is the fence going to be situated such that it would catch trash that's blowing out from the top of the dumpsters? I don't know how tall the dumpsters are, but
They're almost 8 feet. I mean, it's,
so if it's blowing, it's 8 feet tall and it's blowing, unless you got a fence higher than 8 feet, it's going to go over whatever fence you have.
in the dumpster area.
Yeah, if it's coming from the top. And the other was from the horses actually pulling out the trash and dropping it on the ground and it blowing.
Mhm.
Really, in my eyes, if you had a 8-foot fence, it would be on that east side of the property.
Mhm.
'Cause every time I've been up there, the winds, that's the way it goes, but. And you'd have to, right now in the front of the building, there's no fence. So it would have to have a fence to the front along where the road is. Otherwise, the horses would just walk
Yeah.
around. Spike's not gonna like the cattle guard, but if you remember, there's a cattle guard right here, so his horses do deal with cattle guards.
Yeah.
I should have sent you all the pictures with, there's 5 horses that,
I got the picture.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
And we could price, I could go back and reprice just doing the south and the east side and chain link and then the rest with the department doing the barbed wire.
That may be an option
The
too.
only problem that imposes is the area. Ralph had stated when me and him had talked before, he wanted those gates going into the dumpster area because he really didn't want the public getting into that area. With barbed wire, you could still do gates, but they'd be just a little bit different gates.
I mean, that would be a good option too. It would catch anything that comes out of that, what do you call that compactor thing that you got? That's bound
It's just a compactor.
Yeah.
It's a compactor thing. We're gonna get technical.
You had something you want to say?
Yes, we're probably missing one gate because there's a fire hydrant that the fire station uses that is right on the corner of that building. So you'd have to have a gate for them to access the fire hydrant.
I talked to Matt, and he had talked to the chief up there,
Oh,
and
really?
where the fence was gonna be located, they said they didn't really need
No
a gate
hydrant.
right there. Well, they can still access the hydrant, and it's
The
fine.
hy- In other words, the hydrant would be inside the gate, inside the fence.
Right.
Is that over on where the trucks come in?
Yes, right when you turn in there,
Mm-hmm.
straight to the left,
Between the roadway and the
to
building.
the road you're building.
Okay. I don't see it in here, but I'm sure it's there somewhere, probably right there.
Oh, maybe so. I think it is 16. Yeah, I think that's it.
So that was just a few suggestions on trying to save some money. Because of the chain link pricing, the original one was,
77.
and you know, the luck of the law would be is that gate would hang up halfway when there was an emergency or a fire.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would prefer the cattle guard.
Right.
They would too.
Yep.
Okay, so if we do the camera, we're gonna research the camera, get a
I'd say
cheaper one.
$1,500 max on the camera. There's no reason for $8,000 camera.
If we can
Did-
find one.
Did Abe, you have any comment on that camera?
Well, I can think what features you need to do and like motion, I mean, what they have to offer, I mean, definitely look at what they have.
Do you have sources for cameras?
I know, we have, Mike and I were looking when we installed the cameras for Tom a while back. But how many, so is it just one, how many cameras?
Just one.
I mean, we can definitely look into see.
I see how many accounts payables we have through Amazon, and that's where I bought my cameras. So-
Okay, so we're gonna research the camera, and we're gonna try to stay around $1,500, 30-foot cattle guard, $12,235, and then $1,500 to move that pole. And then we'll have to add in, the barbed wire fencing, or is
The barbed wire fencing, if that would be through the fire department
so
up
they're
there.
gonna do
So
all
that
the
would,
fencing?
if they do, or we can get a price just to do the chain link on the south
I think
side
that
and
would
this
be-
side.
I think that might work.
You can make the motion to set fencing up to a certain amount and a camera up to a certain amount.
Okay.
I don't know what to put the fencing up to though. That's,
Lots of variables.
and it's really pricey. That's why I was trying to figure out how to get rid of all that chain link.
I mean, what if we just did a pipe fence, which would match everybody else up there? And to catch the trash, those little square rollout,
Some cow panel.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if that would be cheaper though.
No,
Pipe
pipe fence with no climb wire would be way more
Is it?
expensive than
Oh,
the chain.
okay.
And
This price is relatively good because this is just an estimated cost.
Internet service.
When we bid out the courthouse parking security fence in March of 2022, that was forecasted at $80,000. Was for 300 foot of fence. This is 711 foot of fence for 49. That's not too terribly bad for going all the way up to wheat.
if we cut that down to a 6-foot tall fence too, that would make a big difference.
Yeah, that would be significant.
And it would keep, it's high enough to keep the horses from trying to push over the top of it.
Mhm.
With chain link, they're notorious for pushing it over. But at 6 foot, they're not gonna get their head over it. And
Right.
So we think 25,000 reasonable cap for the fence?
I would be afraid to guess, but he'd probably know more than me.
I would be afraid to guess on that as well.
For the fence portion, you could say some words to the effect of to be re-examined with some additional information once the project moves forward.
And can Uphill give us some different variables too?
And to get a more accurate number, we could go ahead and release an RFP that would be contingent on, the award would be contingent on you guys' funding of it. And then we would have an exact cost of what the fence would be.
Well,
But if it's under 50,000, then we don't have to do that.
We still have to get 3 prices.
Okay.
And we still can do an RFP under 50,000. It's competitive bid over 50,000, but we can do a request, public request for pricing and receive requests from, or pricing from any company.
But when we put it out for RFP, we have to put the size, we want it 6 foot or 8 foot, or
Yes,
can
we'll
we
spec
say
that out. Mhm.
price them both? We're allowed to
We
say
could
price
do
them
it.
both?
We can do an option on the RFP. We can do a base proposal of a 6-foot chain fence, spec'd out, and then an option 2 of 8-foot.
That's
chain
what I
fence
want.
spec'd out.
RB, when the fire chief talked to you, were they gonna completely redo the fence around there, or just add the new fence from the corner to the gate?
Unfortunately, I didn't realize it was as complicated as it is, and I was just like, "Oh, let's go with the cattle guard and the barbed wire," and I didn't ask any more questions because I thought that was.
That's right.
I didn't realize there were all these other factors. So it'd probably be best to call him or have him be here to answer.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. I do have his number on some notes somewhere, if we did want to call him and see if we got a hold of him and ask some questions.
Mike,
Uh-huh.
I got his number.
Okay.
You
That's
want
good,
it?
because I cleaned my office and I actually don't know where it is.
You clean your office, you'll never find anything.
It's as clean as that right there, the
Wow,
desk.
I'm gonna go look.
Or it was yesterday.
I did it.
Okay, so are we good to go with that? We're gonna research the camera for up to $1,500, the 30-foot cattle guard for $12,235, $1,500 to move the pole, and then we're gonna re-examine the fence with the new pricing with an estimate for a 6-foot or a 8-foot
Yes.
fence.
So Tom, are you good on that number on the cattle guard?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
And Trent, just show, I've got a camera system at the road shop. It's $800 one-time purchase. It's hardwired into its own DVR on the internet. And we'll load it wherever I get cell service.
sounds like a plan.
Work.
Okay, we ready to make a motion? I'll make it, I'll just,
Okay,
you guys
yes,
have any more
yes,
questions or
nope.
anything? Okay, anything else?
You see, I was gonna read your notes.
Yeah. All right, I make a motion for the approval for the weed fire, what do we call it?
The convenience center?
Convenience center, for a camera for up to $1,500, a 30-foot cattle guard for $12,235, $1,500 to move the power pole, and the fence we're gonna re-examine with a new pricing of 6 or 8 foot.
On the
Okay.
south and east side, or the whole thing?
Hmm.
You wanna look
I
at the
say the
picture
whole
again?
thing. I say the whole thing, if we're gonna do
I
it.
mean, it'd be nice, it's gonna be a lot more, it's a big area.
You see, you
All
have the
right.
building, I mean,
Because the price that we have in front of us is the whole thing. And so, and this is, let's see, let me put my bearings straight. So this is east here, right?
This is kind of south.
Yeah,
This is east.
right
Okay.
there.
We're coming in from the west side here.
And we want to fence the east side and possibly the south?
This is where the big majority of the trash piles up right here.
And so then the fire department's proposing to do the rest all the way around?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I think they were really originally thinking they would just do from this corner to here because this is already all fenced in already with barbed wire. I don't think they were gonna, I mean,
I was told they were just gonna fill in where the gaps were
Yeah.
with fencing.
which would be from here to here.
I would just say do chain link from those two corners.
We still have the cost of the gates here and this
So
bit
if
of
we did
fence.
from here and then all the way around there and then just let them do this little area right there.
And I don't know that you need to do this. Ralph, do you think you need it on that west side, put the chain link on there, or just, was that
Which area is
by the
west side?
dumpsters, by the dumpsters?
I wouldn't think so, because prevailing winds brings the other direction.
I think
So
just,
just the
yes.
south and the east
The only
side?
issue with that west side is, they like to have an emergency gate to, I use the helicopter over there on that end of the property.
Out in the field?
Yes,
Okay.
they gotta make sure there's a gate there for the ambulance and everything to access it.
So how would they get in through this gate? I mean, where are they gonna go?
Evidently, there must be, because there's an existing fence there now, so there must be a gate somewhere in here. And this wouldn't even change, it would just stay the way it is. They'd open these gates up here and drive in.
Okay.
And if we left this fence for the fire department to do themselves,
Mhm.
that would be the only allowable access for the horses
Mm-hmm.
is through this until it's done, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we do all of this and they can't get to this for a year.
Then the horses are gonna walk right through there
Right.
and all this is for nothing.
Right. I think we should do it all.
Julianne, do we have the money to do it all? Because I know Pamela keeps telling me we have this and this and this.
I'm sorry. I was writing a note, sorry.
Welcome to the fence party. So we're probably looking, so this was for all of it, and this is an 8-foot, is that right, Trent, the 53,000, that was for an
Yes,
8-foot chain
that's
link
8.
all the way around?
With the cattle guard as the main entrance.
So you'd have a 12, 13,000 for the cattle guard on top of that. So you're 66 plus a camera, 1,000 or whatever. And then the 1,500, so you're looking at somewhere around in the 70 to 75,000 area.
I honestly, there was nothing attached to this agenda item when I put my book together, so I don't have any of this information. I haven't had a chance to look and see where the money would come from. So that's something we'll have to look at, either probably general fund or the 1/4% hold harmless. And I'd have to take a look at the budgets to see, what we have, so I can do that. I just, off the top of my head, I didn't have the information, so I didn't look into it ahead of time.
So can we still put it out for RFP and
Yeah,
that way
we
we
can-
know what the price is?
Yeah, we can put it out for RFP, and then once we have all the pricing collected, we can put it on the agenda for approval and go from there. And then by then, we could know where the funding would come from.
So do we need to just table this until we get more information and not vote on it right now?
Or can we vote on
I
making
know
it an
Pamela's like, I wanna
RFP?
You can do an RFP even if you don't have the funding established yet.
Oh, let's,
Yeah.
I think we need to get the whole thing priced out so we know how much money we're talking about.
yeah,
Mhm.
no, let's do that.
And get it for real.
Yeah, working with exact numbers is better
So
than.
that's
Yeah.
better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get a for real deal put together. We know exactly how much money to go to her with, ask for.
Okay.
Do you
Do we
want
need
to
to-
table the whole thing, or do you want to let us at least move forward on the pole, camera, and cattle guard, or do you just want to table the whole thing and give an exact cost? Then
Well,
move forward?
I would be for going ahead with the camera, the pole, and the cattle guard, so we can get moving on that.
Okay.
So getting the pole moved will take a month or two to get,
Okay.
I
I
assume
hate
it's
to
the
keep kicking it
co-op
down the road,
to
so.
get them moving on it.
Okay.
The only thing, Amy, is if you do this fence right here, it's a really steep,
I know.
and if they blade the snow or they push anything, it could cave that chain link in. And I don't know how much snow they really get there in the wintertime, or if they, Tom, do they blade that much?
We're still a little
on-
ways off the road, I think we're
It'd be
free.
fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna do the camera, the cattle guard, and move the pole, move forward on that, and then we're gonna hold off on the fence for new pricing? Is that what you guys, okay. All right, I make a motion for the Weed Convenience Center to, get a camera up to $1,500, 30-foot cattle guard, $12,235, and $1,500 to move the pole. Do I get a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And there's your picture back. Thank you, Trent.
Hey, Trent,
Yes,
instead of doing all that fence, why don't they take the fence from the corner to corner? You got a building there, you don't need to fence the building off.
Part of it. Yeah, I mean, we can look at that as an option.
Save a little bit.
That's a good idea. Good job thinking.
Yep.
Okay, number 19, request approval of resolution number 11-9-23/112-18 sick leave buyback.
Yes, Commissioners, this is something that we brought back last year. It hadn't been done in a few years. And it allows our employees, eligible employees, to sell up to 80 hours of their accrued sick leave back to the county at 50 cents on the dollar. So in order to be eligible to do that, you have to have at least 480 accrued sick hours on the books. So at this point, there's only 14 employees who are actually eligible this year to do that, and not all of them may choose to participate in it. Last year we had, there were 16 eligible, and so I budgeted for that amount, and only 9 of them chose to participate. And last year was a total of about $10,300. So what I budgeted for this year, we have $17,975. That would be the cost for if all 16 of those individuals sold 80 hours. Now, if all 16 choose to participate, it doesn't mean they're all going to sell 80 hours. Actually, some of them may not even have a full 80 hours to sell. So this was looked at the last pay period in October, because that's the last one we had before the board meeting. And we'll take a look at it again if this is approved. Make sure that those individuals, if they want to sell back, that their balance will not drop below the 480. And then we'll move forward with sending out memos to those who are eligible, asking them if they want to participate, and then they can sign and say how much they want to sell. And then we'll cut checks for those people. It'll be a separate payroll, and that will be, I think, what did I say, December 15th would be the pay date for that. So that way they'll have a little bit of extra money for Christmas if they choose to do it.
And this keeps them from just rolling over year after
So the
year
sick
at one
leave, they
time?
can, basically, there's no limit on the amount that they can accrue with the sick leave. And when an employee retires or is terminated, we don't pay out the sick leave, we would pay out the balance of the annual leave. But this is just something, it sort of encourages employees to be somewhat thrifty with the use of their sick leave and not just sort of, take a few hours here, a few hours there. It allows them to build it up, and it gives them an incentive to build it up. And they can then potentially sell some of it back and have a little extra cash bonus for themselves and their family. And we do this in November so that we can take a look at it and see how much the budget might need to be for that, and then we would pay it out in December for them, so.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea to me. Any questions?
No questions.
Questions? Nope. All right. I make a motion for the approval of resolution number 11-9-23/112-18 sick leave buyback. Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Julianne. Okay, number 20, request approval to hire a broadband manager and apply for a grant to offset the salary in the amount of $100,000.
First, my idea was not $100,000. No, that's what the grant.
That's the max we can
Yeah.
apply for, yes.
I'm thinking part-time, this is not a full-time position to do that. It just needs somebody to shuffle, make sure dates are being met and surveys are being conducted and the committees are mapping and all that kind of stuff. It's a part-time thing, like maybe $30,000 a year. That's probably too much too. But I wanted to apply for the grant to get that position filled.
Pamela, did you have any information on that, on this?
We couldn't present you with a job description because we are clueless about this position. We've never done it. What I did provide you was the only broadband manager we can locate in the state is in Los Alamos. This is a little bit different because they own their own utilities. So they are very heavily involved in dictating construction and such. When this came up a few months ago, I did speak to someone at the state about this grant, and they told me it's only for grant writers and engineers, not for broadband managers, but we're going to try it anyway if you approve.
I think Valencia and Sandoval have broadband managers.
We reached out to all the HR directors and they did not respond with job descriptions, but I'll look into it
Okay.
specifically. Valencia, you said, and what else?
And Sandoval.
And Commissioner Barella, what, can you elaborate on what task and functions you envision this person would perform?
So we have all the committees formed and where we join the schools together, libraries together and all of that kind of stuff. And then we have our businesses that we need to identify and the housing. And then we need a manager to oversee all of that mapping, correct the mapping to make sure there's some that show that up Russia Canyon, they don't have services, and it's an old dilapidated house, and the federal government has it as identified as non-service, and so they dock us for that. Well, we don't want to service and so that's somebody just needs to babysit all of the mapping errors that we have. Once we get it properly documented mapping, then we're eligible for the funding and to help with our local service providers to help with their funding too. And the difference being is that 25% match. We can get that if the mapping is accurate, then our service providers may not have so much out-of-pocket expense getting it all down, and then they'll be more willing to go into these areas.
What's the timeline to complete the mapping?
I think we're already at November, I think, is our first phase of mapping, and then there's going to be another phase of mapping that'll probably be about 6 months long.
Okay, I just ask because I don't know what the grant application window and when that would be approved, and it sounds like this function's needed now, and if we didn't hire someone next week, then and it was 5 months later, then it would be too late, or they wouldn't be able to perform the functions that you're looking at them to complete.
I would hope by the beginning of the year we'd be able to do something. I'm just at a point where I don't have enough knowledge to move it anymore. I've done what I can, and we need somebody that can, otherwise we're going to miss the boat. And if we're trying to reach people to move to our county to work from home, this is number one in line in getting that to happen.
Well, I would like good internet too, so.
I want it, but it's so expensive up that canyon. We have to get the price down. So this is part of it.
Who's doing the mapping?
So right now we have the schools, libraries, and then we have Abe is the one that has the account access to oversee it. So we just need somebody to help Abe manage, follow the grants, go to the meetings for the trainings and all that for the mapping and the reporting and all of that. Just more. Abe's, I think, is at his limit of what he can do too. We've got to have somebody to actually manage the entire program.
And you haven't had any motivated individuals that would just like to volunteer?
I would love somebody to volunteer. That's my heart of everything.
Uh-huh.
And I've been trying to rack my brain with that. And the ISPs might know better than I would. You know, if we could reach out to PVT or TBTC or to see if they know of a volunteer that would be willing to do it.
Or if they would even be willing to put because they have a vested incentive in this, and if they were willing to commit an employee to doing this part-time, that could be an option.
Yep. I know when we talked to Josh, he's almost at his limit in jobs already. He's booked out for 5 years. So I don't know if he's willing to be that motivated to get more jobs that'll have to be done in 3 years. So that is the roadblock there.
Mm-hmm.
He and they, both of them, know the mapping system very well. So I think that would be who to reach out to if we could find a volunteer. I would love it.
Is that the owner of Tularosa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And PVT would be another option for the mountains.
Yep.
Because that area is really remote, and will take some dedicated effort to get out to all those places. Okay.
So meanwhile, while we're looking for a volunteer to do it, let's see if we can't get this grant and part-time. I have no way in mind $100,000 for this job. It's not that, but
So do we need to change that in there?
Well, I would say up to 100, because you don't know based on qualifications. You may say, let's budget 30,000, and they come in and say, but I have a master's degree, I want 45. You know, there's 100,000 is the max, but I mean, we can apply for whatever, but if we get more and don't use it, that's not a bad thing either.
okay.
Yeah, and there's the potential that this seems pretty technical, and it takes somewhat of a specific skill set or some knowledge, and you may not attract that at the 30,000 level. So,
Would this be needed for long term? I mean, after this is set up, I mean, is this going to be a permanent employee going forward, or
No.
just until we get it set
Yes.
up? Oh, okay.
I don't
I'd say-
understand why the broadband companies in this area won't put something together on this. My big deal is we're not a utility company, we're not supplying the broadband. I have a little bit of heartburn on that part, trying to hire somebody. If these people are really wanting to get broadband, these companies, with all the money that could be invested in this, why don't they have I mean, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture.
Yeah, they are in the mapping system, and they follow it, and they do challenges of people like Russia Canyon and all that kind of stuff. It takes the county to oversee and approve those challenges or assist in corrections like that. So the county has an important role in doing this. So even if we have a volunteer, I think it still has to go through the county and county access account and everything to get it done. And that's just the most important part. Students is another big one. We have to identify, and I've got Cloudcroft working on the mapping for that, Cloudcroft schools, but even still, she can enter into the system for the mapping, but it takes a county employee to say yes or no, this exists, doesn't exist, or anything like that. And it may even take driving to these locations, say yes, this house exists, no it doesn't, because we have to identify all the students that don't have access as well.
So this is only going to come effect if we get this grant?
I just don't know how to get it moving past where we're at, and we're gonna miss the opportunity.
I understand that. I'm just wondering to try to budget in $100,000, and that it's not just $100,000. You still got all it'll probably be $150,000 by the time you do all the stuff for the employee. But I'm just trying to figure out where to go here. Being we're not supplying the internet, you
Right.
know.
And it's It's not a full-time position, and if I didn't have anything else to do, I could figure it out and do it myself. But it's just,
You don't have time?
a few hours a week, I think, is all it would take, so I don't see $100,000 being even on the scope. But it just, somebody needs to manage it, and I can't. And I don't, if we had plenty of money, I'd say, yes, let's hire somebody, but only if we get this grant. I don't want to commit ourselves to hiring somebody if we don't get this grant.
So
We'll
that's-
figure,
that answered
yeah,
his-
we'll
that's what he
figure,
was asking
yeah, we'll
is-
figure something else out. I just want, let's grab the free money if it's there.
So this is basically just contingent on the grant?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's
yeah.
what he asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay,
Because with this job description right here, I don't think anybody go to work for 100,000 on that.
That's Los Alamos.
Yeah.
So there's others. I didn't think about grabbing their job descriptions. I was just trying to grab the money.
Yeah.
okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Anything else, Joe? All right, I make a motion for the approval to hire a broadband manager and apply for a grant to offset the salary in the amount of $100,000.
Should
In
that-
the event of grant approval.
Yeah, in the event of grant
Yes.
approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Did I get a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Oh, and I wanted to say too, I think we're gonna move our December meeting to December 7th. It's scheduled for the 14th, if everybody can be here on the 7th. I'll be in Albuquerque that week for the cattle growers meetings. Okay, Commissioner Matherly, you wanna tell us what you've been doing?
Well, I went for a very interesting little tour. I don't know if any of the others got to go to the Kids Inc. tour that they had, the 25-year anniversary deal. I'm a big softie for kids, so it kind of hit the heart real close there. We went through the whole tour, Cambry and Doyle, and then the other lady that's running it. It was very interesting to see what they really do there. You know, you never really have any idea some of the circumstances that people come in. I asked her if the county was helping, and she said no. So I've talked to Pamela and Amber both to make sure that they get the paperwork to come in if we can support them a little bit. But it was a very, one thing led to another. Another lady come in with the schools where the kids go. There's a lot of these kids, she was telling me a story. I kept asking, this kid was falling asleep in class every day. She asked him, why are you so sleepy? Why are you falling asleep every day? And he told her, I don't have a bed. He had no place to sleep. So our MTC down at the prison, they made all these beds, and they just took 6 beds up to them to distribute out. So I told her, I asked her, I said, would you like to go visit this facility where they come from? And they said they would love to. So I'm trying to get that set up in February, when they said would be the best time. So she's going to get me some dates in February, and then I'm going to try to get a tour set up for them so they can meet the prisoners and, you know, and do that. So anyway, did that. I've been meeting with people in Bowles Acres getting to be a regular basis on all this abandoned mobile homes and this trash. This one house on First Street is 10 times as bad now as it was when we started a year ago. So something's got to give there. Then we had the meeting with the city. We were all there on that. I got good vibes and bad vibes on that, so I'm hoping that'll work out to where it's going to work. Been talking with Michael Shine on, he's wanting to do a land donation. I don't know if you've been visiting with him too. So I visited with RB yesterday, and I asked RB to call Michael and see exactly what it is that he's wanting. What he asked me was if he donated this land, could he get tax breaks I don't know that we can give somebody a tax break, but anyway, that's what RB is trying to research on and find out. Went to the Crime Stoppers dinner. There was a good turnout for that. I went to, well, Commissioner Barella and I were both at the Cowboys for Cancer research deal. I think that was a good turnout, a good outcome for them. So, and that's about all for me.
I don't know, I didn't write it down this time. The Cowboys for Cancer went to National Day of Hope last weekend here for the courthouse. That was very good. We needed, 500 more people at that event. I have volunteered for the next homeless count for the county. So I think training is coming up for that. Obviously, several Zoom meetings, National Association Counties with Economic Development and Emergency Planning Training. The city meeting, I don't know what else I've done. I don't think that's it, but that's all I can remember.
You have more because you were with me at some of the stuff.
Okay.
I'll remind you. Is that everything?
I think so.
Okay. I've been at 5 million meetings, so. Okay, I attended the prayer vigil in Weed for Laura McCormick. She was the lady who was murdered at the weed store, and I wanted to thank our Otero County Sheriff's Office, the New Mexico State Police, and there were multiple law enforcement agencies up there, and they caught the guy really quick. So I was thankful for that. I spent 2 days in Santa Fe preparing for a meeting with the BLM, with the New Mexico-Arizona Coalition of Counties. I think we had a good meeting with them. It was for the proposed rule to add the conservation to the 6 current uses that BLM has, which is livestock grazing, mining, timber harvesting, outdoor recreation, hunting, and off-highway vehicle driving. It's pretty scary, some of this changes that are trying to come down by the government according to our property land rights. I attended a 30 by 30 meeting in Portales with the commissioners from Roosevelt and Curry County. Attended another 30 by 30 meeting in Capitan with the commissioners from our county, Lincoln County, and Chavez. And then I attended a third 30 by 30 meeting in Hobbs with commissioners from Lee and Eddy County. And the combination probably between those 3 meetings was about 500 people that we got to talk to and tell them about this 30 by 30. Attended a gathering in Tularosa with Congresswoman Harrell and Congressman James Comer. You were at that one too.
I forgot about that.
And attended a joint meeting with the county and city commissioners, and I thought that went pretty good. I think that maybe we can work with them going forward. Attended a meeting held by the National Association of Counties for the Environment, Energy, and Land Use. I'm on that steering committee. Attended my second board meeting with the Tularosa Basin Historical Society, which I'm really enjoying that. We've got a really cool museum. I also attended a funeral this week of Janice Thomas. I don't know how many of you know her, but Janice was a good woman. She worked at Comfort Inn for years, and she left Comfort Inn and went to the hospital. She had 6 kids that she pretty much raised on her own, and she was a very active member of Coronet Baptist Church. That's where we got in the lockdown the other day when they had the hostage situation. So 300 of my good friends were all in the church together and got a little warm in there. And then I wanted to ask everybody to please attend the Veterans Parade this coming Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. And if you see a veteran, please remember to thank them. And I also want to wish everybody a really great Thanksgiving. Hope you get to spend it with your family and friends. And go see the Wizard of Oz. It's so cool. So that's what I have. Okay, Pamela?
All right, commissioners, me and Sylvia attended my quarterly board meeting with the Southeastern New Mexico Economic Development District. Sylvia and I visited the Otero County Processing Center, our monthly tour and visit with the warden. That went very well. I wanted to let you know that we held interviews for a deputy director with the jail. We got a qualified applicant.
Awesome.
Only one, but he was qualified, and he was offered the position, and he starts the 26th.
Good.
So Nina should get some help in admin. Yes. He is very experienced. He is actually a past MTC employee that's worked at various facilities across the United States,
That's good.
including ours.
Good. Good news.
I attended the 30 by 30 meeting in Capitan as well. After the last meeting, I got the capital outlay submitted, so we're ready for that. I wanted to let you know, and Gerald didn't know because you've missed, I think, the last Chaparral Solid Waste meeting. We did get brochures, both in English and Spanish. We only got 250 of each, but I'm gonna figure out how we're gonna distribute those in Chaparral. I'll work with John Colquitt probably on that. And then I wanted to let you know on the green lights on the building, I've already had Eric working on it. That won't work in those amber lights, it won't show green. We discussed the flag light, that's a special bulb. They've already searched all over town, there are no green bulbs for that.
Bummer.
So I say keep looking, maybe we'll get lucky. And then the last thing, I wanted to let you know, after last year and RB's deep involvement with legislation over the processing center, we have not had a lobbyist in many years. And RB and I would like us to have one again. I know Vicki and I've had a discussion. We have to fast track this to get a lobbyist on board for session. So I have already authorized us to go out to bid to bring back some options for you to consider a lobbyist. The thing is with the timelines and how long you have to have it out and this and that, we're gonna have to ask a special meeting at the end of December to get them on board before session starts. So we're looking at probably December 27th.
Okay.
If that doesn't work because of the holidays, we could do the 20th. But if you could keep that in mind, I'll reach out in the next few weeks and try to schedule a meeting for that. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm certain I did more than this last month, but I don't remember what it was. But I did go to Weed the third week in October and meet with the community to discuss options and ideas for the community center, and we're working through some of that. Pamela and Trent and I and it's going to be engineer or
Wilson, yeah.
in the engineering firm are going to go up to Weed in a few weeks and take a look at the building and get some further ideas for what we can do. It's just a problematic situation that presents challenges, many different challenges that exceed the scope of the community and what they can do and what they just need. I mean, they just need a place to meet and host functions and be a community center. And what we currently have doesn't necessarily meet that. So I want to try and be creative and explore possibilities and be able to present them with some options. And I can talk more with you about that one-on-one. Other things that we discussed were the horses and the trash, and Under Sheriff Jett attended the meeting with me and provided the community, which is obviously experienced something that was very traumatic. He answered questions about safety and ways to be more vigilant on a daily basis and ways to be able to protect the community and themselves, and other just general questions about the tragedy that occurred. Overall, the community was receptive and appreciative of where we're at. I did inform them that I had verified that they were designated as a colonius, and what that does is open up that funding for potential projects there. So from that point forward in the meeting, kind of the running answer to any issues that came up were colonius funding. But in reality, I don't know where we'll get with that. But the next round of that will be in the spring, so being mindful of that for potential options and solutions for the community. But other than that, like I said, things are happening, but not too much that I can think to update you on right now.
Anybody else have anything?
I have one other thing I was going to ask Sheriff Black. I was talking with RB about it. The Forest Service is wanting to implement law enforcement officers to start working the mountain area. I was kind of concerned on what your thought was on that.
I think you'll see between the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, Western State Sheriffs, and National Sheriffs, we're putting public comment in right now. We've opposed 90% of what they're trying to get.
Oppose it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the answer I needed to know.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in there, and I've got a whole file on it right now. We've been studying this for about a month and a half now since, we've been having a lot of Zoom meetings and stuff like that. There are some things in there that we're like, oh, that's cool, you know, we have no problem with that, but about 90% of it, we're going to oppose it with our public comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right, anything else? All right, we are adjourned.